Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight we have guest Ryan Edwards, cryptozoologist, and he's the author of a new book he has out, The Other Unrecognized Primates of North America. We're going to be talking about devil monkeys, gugwe, North American apes, the other sightings people have had of Bigfoot-like creatures, but they're not exactly like your typical Bigfoot. Some of them are nothing like your typical Bigfoot sightings, but these creatures have been spotted. You know, we've talked about a lot of different creatures on this show, be it that aren't Bigfoot in North America, like Dogmen and Jersey Devil and other weirdness. There's so much out there in our out in our forests that we don't know what's out there. And I wonder right now, I want everybody's tonight, definitely prayers go out to the people affected by Hurricane Helene and the next hurricane on its way. How has that affected these creatures of the forest that we have not seen? Are they out there? Are people seeing them now during this devastating time? I don't know. We might get some stories years from now about what people are witnessing right now. They're in Asheville or Chimney Rock or what's going on. But our prayers need to go to them, to us tonight. Again, I am super excited for our guest, Ryan Edwards, tonight. And of course, lots of weird to get to in the World Wide Web of Weird. And we will open the phone lines later in the show to join the discussion. If you've had a cryptid experience, definitely call in tonight. Lot to get to, so let's go ahead and get rolling into the show. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight's guest, I usually say they're joining us after the World Wide Web of Weird, but tonight, he's joining us for the World Wide Web of Weird. We got some Bigfoot shenanigans to talk about. That'll be towards the end of it. But how you doing tonight, Ryan? Oh, I got to there you
go. Gotcha. Coming in now?
You're in. You're live.
Awesome. So, yeah, I'm doing great, Jason, but good to be here.
I'm glad to have you for the World Wide Web of Weird tonight. We can get your comments on at least the last couple of stories I'm sure you have some opinions on. We'll get into that as well. My beautiful co-host all the way out in California is Jamie D. How you doing tonight, Jamie?
Doing well, thank you.
Doing well as you hold up the hand with the wrapping on it. How's your hand doing? The bruise on your hand.
Fractured, but it's all right.
Fractured? Oh, no. Well, healing prayers for Jamie is too. Healing prayers for Jamie. And another person I want prayers for tonight because I worry about him is in St. Augustine, Florida. Hurricane pending. Rob Autry, how do you do tonight, Rob?
Oh, pretty good, I guess.
Are you getting prepared? What do you think they're saying it's going to hit, how it's going to hit St. Augustine?
It ain't looking good.
I know, man. Prayers to you and your family. Just stay safe. Batten down the hatches, my friend.
Yep.
Hang in there.
Used to
and
it.
have your
so.
have your supplies ready because our government sucks.
No, yeah.
All right.
I'll lose my house. At least I'll get $750.
You'll get maybe. I don't know. That's asking a lot, Rob. Right now, I don't know. All right, we got a lot of weird to get to, so let's go ahead and roll into the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web Weird, I figured I'd start out with this one. You know my fascination with the moon. I love the moon. Well, can I say the C virus, the coronavirus? As I say, coronavirus. Get me YouTube algorithm. This is from Unexplained Mysteries. Coronavirus pandemic changed the temperature of the moon. Oh my God! Now the coronavirus has changed the temperature of the moon. Dear God. Yes, you heard that right. For those listening on the Paranormal Soup radio network on the Talkstream live radio channel, we are a live webcast streaming out to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch if you want to come watch, which you should. I have some interesting stuff to show, but if you want to listen, I'll narrate as best as possible. All right, let me get the share screen up here. Yes, coronavirus. This is the original article from The Bite. The coronavirus 19 pandemic affected the moon, scientists claim. Blah, 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 global warming. That's the article. I'm serious. Like, it's all like, because we were not, studies have found that because we weren't out doing traffic and all this, it actually affected the slight temperature of the moon. Now we got to care about global cooling on the moon because of goddamn global climate change. They determined that the most likely explanation for this anomalous dip in temperature was that of an overall amount of heat and pollution produced by human civilization at night had reduced sufficiently enough to cause a notable drop in the lunar surface temperature. Therefore, our study shows that the moon has possibly experienced the effect of COVID-19 lockdown, visualizing an anomalous decrease in lunar nighttime surface temperature during the period. Seriously? It can also be first stated from the moon-based observatory. The future is advocated by some researchers. This is like, we need less people is what they're advocating for. It's all you people. You sick humans and your pollution. Look, you even affect the moon, you nasty humans. Depopulation. Okay, let's move on.
Stupid cow farts.
And the cow farts.
Yeah, my damn cow farts.
Oh, the methane.
But let's go mine a bunch of lithium and all the great resources that gives in the poison and, what happens with the lithium batteries after everything. I don't know. Okay. Sound effects provided by Rob Andre. All right, move on.
All right.
Let's move on. Here we go. Alleged UFO whistleblower offers bizarre alien invasion prediction. According to reports, Charles McNeil, allegedly a U.S. Air Force intelligence insider, has put forward the bizarre claim that he was once recruited to join a top-secret unit tasked with maintaining a 70-year truce between the government and the United States and some sort of alien civilization. Well, they see how we handle treaties and truce and agreements across the world. I wouldn't hold water with that. Okay. He also maintains that this truce is supposedly about to come to an end. Wonder why. Leading to what he describes as a series of dramatic events. These will allegedly include some sort of global conflict, as well as conflict, as well as a staged alien invasion, Project Bluebeam, that will make use of reversed engineered UFO technology. It doesn't stop there either, as McNeil also claims that an effort to slowly expose humanity to the reality of extraterrestrial visitation has been playing out for decades in the form of movies, books, and television shows about alien invasions and various other science fiction scenarios. This is known as the public acclamation program. or simulation. I don't know. Basically, brainwash. You know, we got to control your thoughts, right? For decades, you have been force-fed fictionalized versions of the truth via TV, movies, and books. McNeil has even offered a description of the various alien races that he claims will be invading us. Type A through C, type A-C have a gray or grayish pigmentation that can come off a bit chalky sometimes, he said. They have 4 fingers with little suction cups on the end of each finger, and some have webbing in between their fingers and toes. Type D have brownish pigmentation, 5 fingers, and 5 toes. These species started off fully biological until they ventured out into the cosmos and came into contact with what they now answer to, something called the Keeper. They now worship technology and started to incorporate mechanics into their biological makeup thousands of years ago. So they're the Borg. Yeah? Okay. Suffice it to say, it would probably be best to take these claims with a very large pinch of salt. Indeed, yeah. I mean, this is what we've been talking about, though. I mean, he's making a point. I've been saying, if they are disclosed, if there's people wanting to disclose it, is this because we are facing some kind of end deadline agreement, and there is going to be a the government has no control over it, exposure of aliens? That's what he's getting at. Maybe he's right. All right, moving on. Some UFO beam footage. So the UFOs, our agreement's truth or end, and they got to come off some aggressive-looking UFO ships here. It's from the Mirror, and I got the shorter version from Tim Binnell from Coast to Coast. Weird piece of footage from Mexico shows a strange-looking UFO that resembled a spike top hovering in the sky. According to local media report, the peculiar video popped up on social media this weekend with the claim that the sighting occurred in the community of Exalta. Though that date of the incident is unknown, in the footage, the unusual UFO can be seen floating high above the witness, who tries to capture the curious scene with his cell phone. This is a very aggressive-looking UFO with spikes on it. Maybe it's the alien invasion. Go ahead and play it. It's actually pretty clear for a cell phone, and as shaky as you would expect from a cell phone. You see, like, the spikes in the top? Like, kind of like it's got the like one of those spinny tops toys. Now that shape, in particular, that UFO has been seen and reported by other people over the decades. The spinny top kind of UFO like that.
Spikes.
So the spikes are a bit interesting.
Yeah, that's
on the side.
Huh.
Now, could this be some fancy balloon drone? Possibly.
Or
Land of Illusion, people, we don't know. Or Digicabra? No. Digital
and when
UFO.
things are, I mean, it's hard to focus sometimes on like one ball when you're trying to like follow something. Like I try to stay pretty still, but when it's like completely all over the place, you have to wonder like,
Is he zoomed in? Go back to the beginning of the video, because I think he does like a zoom in with his phone. Yeah. See?
Yeah.
It's still pretty close, but he's doing a zoom in, but it seems like it's not much of a zoom in. It seems like whatever this is pretty damn close to
that would
him.
be massive.
Yeah.
It has no noise.
I don't know. Did this one have audio? Can't remember.
Yeah, you're not hearing it?
It looks too cartoony to me. The way it's moving, there's just something about the way it's moving doesn't seem like natural. Even though it's sped up or whatever is going on.
I don't think the speed's changed.
Well,
there was noise to this, I think, but
the way it's moving.
Yeah, the movement of it's weird. It's like it's moving kind of like a balloon. Not just staying in one spot. It's like moving almost like a.
What these videos, what I always say is, when he shot this period of time, why'd you stop shooting? I want to see how it left.
Yeah.
The exit is always the key. For digital manipulation, boy, they never get that right. You can always see the exits like God, that looks really real until it zips away and it's like, look, that didn't look right. Or if it is a balloon or drone, they're never going to make it zip away, right? And they're not going to get it. It's just going to come back down to the ground. Like, oh yeah, that was not a UFO. I don't know. It could be the real deal.
The light reflection looks kind of legit as far as like the lighting and the actual video they're using. I don't know where the light source is, but I'm feeling like maybe that
it's like a cloudy day.
but where the sun actually would be.
Yeah, it's hard to say because we're so little footage here.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. Just keep filming, Or I mean, maybe they didn't have enough room on their phone. Who knows? But I always want to see the exit. I want to see how these things take off or leave. That's the clue.
Yeah. All
right, moving on. Now that we're into Halloween season, we got to start having these stories. and of course, in Indiana, remember I had one. Was a couple of years ago. I had a guy in my own county report a killer clown in the report, but he fought him off. He kung fu chopped him. Remember that one? And then he had to tell the police he lied. But it's clear. It's definitely Halloween season. We got people going around in clown outfits. This one from Indiana cops, not far from me, I think. Here, what was this? Terre Haute police. In response to unsettling images making the rounds online, Indiana Police Department was forced to issue a statement. This is the statement up here, reassuring residents that their city was not being overrun by weaponized creepy clowns. Strange announcement came Tuesday morning by the way of the Facebook page of the Terre Haute Police Department. The post indicated that authorities had become aware of an image circulating on social media featuring clowns and guns in our community. The department went on to debunk the unnerving photo by stressing that the image has been clearly edited with text supplied to it, and all visuals with the image are readily found online, meaning they just took a bunch of images of clowns and guns and said, hey, this is coming to Terre Haute. Get your guns. Take your tail for killing clowns. In a testament to the power of misinformation in this digital age, the cops noted that the setting of the strange pictures is not even a location within Terre Haute. Ultimately, the department called upon the public to refrain from sharing the creepy clown pictures online, since doing so only helps those who aim to instill fear in the city's residents. Yeah. But then there's sometimes people really do go around with clown masks. This next one. Security camera footage. Buzz creepy clown burglarizing Nashville business. Security camera footage from a Nashville garden center shows the business being burglarized by a rather unusual suspect. A creepy clown. According to a local media report, the weird incident occurred last week at JVI Secret Gardens in the city of Donaldson's neighborhood. Long after the shop had closed for the night, owner Derek Johnson, business partner, informed him that his security system had detected a strange intruder and that you need to get up there right now. However, when he checked the footage of the unfolding break-in and saw that the interloper was a creepy clown, Johnson understandably pumped the proverbial brakes on heading over there to the business. I said, nope, I'm not going up there, the garden center owner later recounted to a local TV station. Instead, Johnson activated the camera speaker and tried to talk to the burglar. Gotta love Ring cameras and stuff. Whom he likened to the infamous Pennywise character, like a wish Pennywise, maybe. I don't know. In doing so, the creepy clown realized he had been spotted, which led the sticky-fingered miscreant to flee the scene. Basically, this person, like weeks before, came and stole propane tanks, like big, huge, expensive propane tanks. So they put up security cameras. Obviously, this person knows that, so they came with a creepy clown mask this time. But, he still didn't want to get caught on camera. Maybe he didn't know about the cameras for sure, but he went with the mask, and then he got frightened when the guy talked. But it is going to be coming out on HBO. There's going to be the Pennywise, prequel series. Just wait for more creepy clown stuff. I swear these movie studios do some of them on their own. It happened during the Pennywise movies. A lot of creepy clown stuff. Just wait for more creepy clowns this season. And when that TV show series airs on HBO, just wait. And my wife hates clowns. Literally, I'd had the It book on my shelf. I had to always hide it, and my It miniseries box set had to hide it. You couldn't see Tim Curry's clown face. Not at all. She did end up watching though the remake because it had what's his name, Bill Skarsgård, which she loves. So, all right, moving on. I'm losing track here. All right, we go on to some Michigan Bigfoot sightings. Maybe no. They arrested him. Damn cops! You arrested Bigfoot. These last two we got some time to talk about, and this is why I told Ryan here to join us. Amazon and Bigfoot costumes is going to be a theme, besides Amazon and clown costumes this season, I'm guessing. A pair of Michigan state troopers made a rather unusual stop last week when they pulled over over to speak with a Sasquatch they saw walking down the side of the road. Hey, man, he's just walking down the road. What laws did he break? What laws did he break? He's just a Sasquatch walking.
He doesn't know much.
Right?
Walking, looking Sasquatch.
According to local media report, the odd encounter occurred last Wednesday evening in the city of Cadillac. Recounting the proverbial Bigfoot bust, Public Information Officer Lieutenant Derek Carroll explained that the troopers noticed the costume individual while out on patrol and took quick action because they knew this wasn't a cutout. I have one of those in my town. Like, there's a country road, county line road, where somebody at their farm there has a cutout of Bigfoot. It got me several times, right? Like someone in a corner eye. You know, I mean, it's
one
still
on
up.
our disc golf field.
Yeah. Curious as what the creature was doing, the cops stopped the fox Sasquatch and quickly determined that he was simply roaming around rather than causing any mischief. It's got, I mean, I guess it's Michigan, but it's still kind of hot, and that wouldn't be comfortable. The officer subsequently snapped a photo with the beast and shared it on social media, marveling with the music that it turns out Bigfoot is smaller than our troopers, as you can see. He's a little short, Bigfoot. I don't know. Was this guy ready to pull a stunt, like a video? You think?
Maybe you want to go viral.
I want you to zoom in on this Bigfoot guy here, because this is going to. We got to get the last story. I think you people know what's coming. We're about to crap upon a bunch of things. I want you to zoom in on this Bigfoot arrested by the police. I want you to zoom in. Can you zoom in on that? Yeah, he's trying.
Yeah, let me figure it out here.
Technical stuff.
Here we go.
There we go. Look at that costume.
Oh.
You can have one of your own on Amazon.
Lion on Wizard of Oz.
This leads into our next story. Go ahead and get to this video. Here. Not that. Hold on, you're giving away the punchline. Get to the video. Get to the video. Get to the video. All right, so this is TMZ released this, and this went everywhere. Ryan was probably bombarded with people all the time saying, Ryan, Bigfoot, did you see him? On TMZ! And ABC News even covered it. Why, Ryan, do they cover this? Why? With all the other Bigfoot stuff people have had out there, we've covered on this show. Why do they always cover the crappiest? And yes, I'm about to crap upon this. As many people have right away.
Yeah.
Go ahead and play the video. Then let's see if you can crap upon it yourselves, people. You can judge for yourself, and I'll crap upon it after. Go ahead.
Let's see.
Should be a video. Go back to the files. There's definitely got to be a video. Don't tell me I didn't put the video in there. I know I did.
Maybe?
Maybe?
Maybe not.
Hold on. Let me look. Article 7. Did it just... Article 7 movie.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I was over.
Yeah, that's it. Now, I could have got a better version of this video. There he is, Bigfoot, just sitting next to a tree. Hide and seek king of the world. Just sitting around.
Just chilling on
some, eat some weeds. Just chilling. Oh, who's that? A person? Oh. This went on. Okay, so this went on TMZ, ABC. People are sharing this off. Oh, and like people like Ryan. I am not a cryptid person at all. But I right away was like, oh, come on, man. That's like the Jack Link's costume.
Yeah.
You haven't seen the Jack Link's costume. Like what I think this version here. So there's like two different versions. I didn't have time. I should have got. There's two different versions. This is like the version that went out to everybody see. Now rewind that a little bit. Just rewind it just a little bit for me, Rob. Just a teeny bit. I want you to go back to where you get zoomed in on his face and his mouth. We're gonna run out of about 3 minutes here. We got. But I want people to see this because this was supposedly done as an ad. They were making an ad campaign for some head shop or someplace, squat shop.
Yeah,
or something? I don't know.
There's a squat shop up in I believe Oklahoma.
Yeah, stop right there. Okay, so yeah, Oklahoma. And they even posted and I have the picture of it, saying, "Hey, look, TMZ carried our new commercial that's going to be coming out."
Yeah.
The guy whoever posted this that made this digitally manipulated this from the original, I believe, and scrubbed the mouth because the mouth is not like what the Jack Link is, but there's an original video with the Jack Link's mouth. You almost don't see it. It's just he just blurred it a little bit, so you don't see the Jack Link's mouth. Go ahead and go to some of the other pictures. Go ahead, Ryan. What are you going to say?
I'm like, yeah, because you like if you know the Jack Link's costume, you see like the teeth and all that. You don't see that here.
Here's your Jack Link's costume. Buy it for yourself on Amazon for what, $35 or something like that. Zoom in there on that guy if you can, if you're able to. See the teeth there? So if you find the original video of this, you totally see it's that teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that other, that, I mean, oh my God, so many people ran with this, Ryan. Like people, I'm not going to name names.
And a lot of people, especially people up in Oklahoma that I know, got reports and they're talking about this video, and I'm like, Oklahoma's known for Bigfoot sightings, but you realize that it's a fake, right? Or like, it's just, I've had so many people inundate me with this video of like, oh, it's proof. Oh, have you seen this? Oh my guys, it's the Jack Link's commercial, pretty much. Like, let me tell you guys, I didn't have to explain it to them. And
why is it this stuff that goes viral? Why is it this stuff that goes viral is like completely explainable?
Because this is the stuff that makes people like me look crazy.
Yeah, there he is with the Jack Links. Snap into a Slim Jim. No, wrong one. It's Jack Links. I mean,
Macho Man Randy Savage versus Bigfoot.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'd pay for that. Just want to watch him beat. No, I don't want to see him beat up Bigfoot. I want to see him beat up the guy in a Jack Link's costume who's trying to pretend to be Bigfoot. That's what I want to see. Yeah. Oh yeah! I'll snap you. All right, that's it for the World Wide Web of Weird. Our guest tonight, thank you for joining us on the World Wide Web of Weird, is Ryan Edwards. We're going to be talking about his book, The Other Bigfoot Beyond, the other unrecognized primates of North America. We're going to be talking about devil monkeys, gugwe, and North American apes after this short commercial break, and we'll open up the phone lines later. All right, guys, we'll be right back.
You were brought here for one purpose, necromancy.
A ceremony dating back to the pre-Christian era. It's the art of reviving the dead. It requires involvement with evil spirits by the person performing the act.
The devil god brings life to the dead.
No, please. No, please.
And death to the living. Necromancy. Starring Orson Welles and Pamela Franklin. From Cinerama releasing. In color, rated PG, parental guidance suggested.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and InterfaceDeath.net.
He is conducting an experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Hello, I am Fernando Martinez. I think by now you know I am an emotional kind of guy. People stop me in the street and say, Fernando, what the hell is wrong with me? Silk shirt, hairy chest, enough aftershave to drown a household pet, but I still cannot get a woman. I tell them you are an ignorant fool. Without a symbol of power and fertility around your neck, what kind of woman is going to respect you? That is why I have teamed up with Medallion Man, the shop for medallion needs. Medallion Man caters to all levels of masculinity. For the strong, silent type, a medallion the size of a hubcap will say everything that needs to be said. Even singing medallions for the Casanova, who knows music is the food of love. Model trains, dollhouses, diapers, whatever your interest, we've got the medallion for you. Don't forget, every woman knows if you can't support a medallion, you can't support a family.
This is the sound of a space clock aboard a U.S. satellite 180 miles above the Earth. No one winds up this timepiece. It's powered by a tiny battery, a battery that delivers power for years without replacement. Now the same type of battery, the Duracell battery, can bring new reliability and long life to your battery-operated equipment. Radios, cameras, toys, all run far longer. Duracell batteries, the long-distance power cells, outlast any ordinary battery. The same type of battery that keeps space clocks running for years can bring long life to anything powered by batteries. Dura, as in durable. Cell, as in power cell. The Duracell battery, made by Mallory.
Switch to DCS range, read.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe, 5 by 5.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Ryan Edwards. Ryan is an acclaimed cryptozoologist and author that was born and raised in San Antonio, Texas. As a child, he was a fan of the natural world, paleontology, and mysteries. These led him straight into the arms of cryptozoology. At a young age, Ryan Edwards fell in love with cryptozoology because it demonstrates that there are still mysteries out there in our natural world. He has spent over 10 years researching the menagerie of unrecognized species seen across the world. At the young age of 20, Ryan Edwards was also able to get his first book, Cryptids of the World, published. Now Ryan Edwards spends his time traveling around Texas and the American South, lecturing and educating others about this science. Ryan Edwards' goal isn't to force others to believe in these creatures, but to educate them and for them to come to their own conclusions. In the world of cryptozoology, there has been a marriage of both science and superstition, a mix of logical and the illogical. His book is Beyond Bigfoot, the Other Unrecognized Primates of North America, talking about devil monkeys, gugwees, North American apes. And I wonder, people have a lot of these different sightings. We of course, we get into the paranormal and strange, weird accounts. But what I like about Ryan is he really gets down into the facts, the science, and where did these come from? What is, are they related to us? Are they pre-ancestors in some way? What is the science behind this that we can do? We can theorize a lot and speculate, and he will tonight. But it's based off of what we know, the evidence and the history. We're going to get all of that, and we'll also open up the phone lines later in the show for you to call and join the discussion. But let's go ahead and get to our guest. Ryan, it is a true honor to have you on the show tonight. I want to thank Nellie Turner from Paranormal Roundtable for sending you our way, because I've been saying to her and Josh, I need more people from the cryptozoology world. I want more crypto shows, because my kids love it. For one, I love it, but I'm not like knowledgeable, as I feel like I should be in that area, and knowing what guests to get on besides the big names that won't come on my show. I'm looking for the people that are out there doing the hard research like you are, and really delving deep into this to come and talk about it on the show. So thank you for reaching out to me.
Of course, I really appreciate you having me on and be able to share my ideas, share my research, and help me get my name out there a little bit more.
We want to do that tonight. I don't have a huge audience, but I think these people here will definitely want to check you out after tonight. We've been talking before the show. Yeah. But, I gave a little bit of your description with the bio, but what was it really that drove you into this field?
Well, what really drove me into it is like what I said, like every little boy, I love dinosaurs, mystery, Scooby-Doo, stuff like that. And what really got me into cryptozoology is one TV show I always like to bring up, Monster Quest, the show back on History Channel,
Yes.
back when I was a kid. One of my earliest memories is me sitting in my living room, and there's a Thunderbird episode. I
Oh,
think
that's a
they're
good one.
recreating one of the eyewitnesses, and you see a giant bird cross the screen, and that's one of my earliest memories. And
That's
I was
awesome.
like, "Oh, what is that?" Then I found about Bigfoot. I started like the Bigfoot books at like the school library. I started like checking out those, reading those, and I just kind of fell into what was called cryptozoology. I think when I really heard of the word cryptozoology, I think it was like from Lauren Coleman. And I was like, okay, so there's a research into this. Okay, there's a science. And of course, I was into dinosaurs and like Cenozoic mammals like Smilodon, stuff like that. So I was like, okay, so I started looking at correlations between cryptozoology and zoology and biology. And that's what really kind of got me into the more scientific aspect of cryptozoology, the more not realistic, but more flesh and blood aspects of this research.
Well, the question is, it comes up in the Bigfoot world: are they flesh and blood creatures, dimensional entities, slip-ins, or are they flesh and blood creatures? This is the argument. I think we have to start where you are. I think both are conversations we have to have from witness testimonies. That people do have weird, strange stuff, but in the end, if this is a physical creature, we need to look at what would be the requirements for it to exist, genetic pool wise, breeding wise, food source wise, physicality, physical structure. Is it realistic? These things we have to ask these questions and look at the evidence.
Yeah, like that's one thing with cryptozoology in general. Like, look at your show right now. It's Paranormal Soup, and I'm a cryptozoologist on it. A lot of people coin with cryptozoology with like the paranormal, ghosts, UFOs, things like that. But honestly, at the end of the day, I believe cryptozoology is kind of like the first step of zoology. You have to
Yeah.
discover the creature first and then speculate it from there. But a lot of people, what they like to do is they see a mystery and a mystery, like UFOs, ghosts, Bigfoot, and they like to club it all into one box. But I say no, let's unpack that box. Kind of like what science does is compartmentalize stuff. We like to put things in their own little groups. And I like to do that with cryptozoology. A lot of stuff in this field, I believe, is flesh and blood. It's zoological, but there's also other aspects to it as well. There are cryptids out there that I will even say myself, hey, this physically cannot exist zoologically or evolutionarily, but just because it can't exist evolutionarily doesn't mean it doesn't exist in my mind. That's what separates me from a lot of the cryptozoologists. They say, oh, if it can't exist, I don't research it. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in 100% yes or 100% no. So I try to look at all sides of this research.
For me, the interest has always been, I guess, for me when it comes to the cryptids and Bigfoot is, my personal opinion, like, we've been taught evolution in school, and that there's these huge missing gaps, and there's things that are not explained. And I'll admit, I'm a big ancient aliens guy. I think we had genetic manipulation in our ancient past by aliens. That's my opinion, But there's got to be offshoots, different species they bred. And that's where my interest came into like Bigfoot years ago. Is just wondering, is this the Enkidu of the Sumerians? Is this some kind of offshoot of humanity? Where does this belong in the human evolution that we have so many questions about? I mean, the things that they propose in universities on human evolution is, if you really get down to it, is a bit of a joke. It's a lot of a stretch. Now, they make this very good scientific fundamental backgrounds, people that are pretty experts in their field, but they make big leaps and jumps from very small evidence. Look at Gigantopithecus, which we're going to probably get in tonight. It's really a jawbone and some molars.
Yeah, like, there's a joke that's said between paleoanthropologists. But all the evidence for human evolution can fit within like a small box.
Yeah,
like all the bones and everything, and you fit in the box. And that's like one thing with me with science is, yes, I like to say cryptozoology is a science of speculation. You have to speculate to an extent, but also when is speculation becoming more hypothesis than truth? Like, for instance, like human evolution you brought up. Homo denisova. This is a whole human species that we only know from like one or two finger bones.
Right.
Gigantopithecus, like you brought up, we only know the jaw of a whole species of animals.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I also bring up with advocacy for Bigfoot. We only know less than 10% of all primates that ever existed on here in this earth. That includes America, South America, Africa, Europe, and Australia, as well as Asia. So everyone says, "Well, there can't be a Bigfoot, anything like that." I'm like, "Well, we only know 10% of what the primate family tree looks like. There are plenty of openings for something like this to exist."
Right. And I mean, look at the fossil. I mean, when you get like you're talking about paleontology, I mean, I think we were talking about this last week. It's just there's so much we rely upon on the fossil record, but it's such a small window of our history because the conditions to meet fossilization are very specific.
It's so rare.
Everything else turned to dust. Is gone. We don't know. There's so many species that existed on this planet. We'll never know we're here.
Yes.
You know, and how many of those never did go extinct? We're not seeing their bodies. That's the question. Where's the body? That's what you get, right? In cryptozoology. Yeah. Where's the body? Where's the body? Where's the beef? Where's the body? Where's the body, Ryan?
I always bring this up. I'm like, okay, so where's the body? Like, of course, the old-fashioned things are with any hunter. How many dead bears have you seen in the woods? How many dead wolves have you seen in the woods? A lot of them say probably none. So large omnivores, large predators don't really usually die out in the open. And second of all, as well as like with primates especially, paleontological records very scant. We barely know a lot of primates. I'd like to say this: there was no fossil record of any type of chimpanzee or chimpanzee relative until 2009, and that was one or two bones of like from their teeth.
Yeah.
So a species that we know exists out there, we didn't have any proof of it until like their evolution till 2009. Even like primate bone, chimpanzee bones and all that. You know why we know what the bones look like? From the dead ones we gotten from zoos or the dead ones we've killed. You don't find a dead chimpanzee out in the jungle of Africa. It's a very rare occurrence.
Because nature eats it.
Yeah. Especially in the environments that are seen in. Like, these are areas of highly acidic soil, large omnivores, large predators. Even, like, a lot of people speculate that Gigantopithecus, if you look at some of the Gigantopithecus skull, remnants, they had chew marks from porcupines. People don't realize porcupines eat bones because they want the calcium in it. So there's a lot of fossils they will never find because they were eaten by different types of animals for the calcium in the bones.
Yeah.
So they would actually eat a whole skull.
Yeah, it's a possibility, yes. And also, a lot of times, like, for instance, Gigantopithecus, von Koningswald, the man who found it, only found them because they were in an apothecary shop because they were found
in Tibet?
In China. They were being called dragon's teeth. Yeah. But then Rolf von Koningswald saw these and like, wait, that's not a dragon, that's a primate tooth. He went back to the caves they were the first discovered in and found more examples of these giant molars and giant canines. And he made the whole species Gigantopithecus blackie. So Gigantopithecus blackie, like I actually own a replica skull of Giganto, which is about this size. And you see where the actual fossil is and where the rest of it's speculated on. For instance, the main skull of Gigantopithecus, if you look up Gigantopithecus skull, it was primarily designed by Grover Krantz. Dr. Grover Krantz was a very famous paleoanatomist, and he would look at like anthropology and stuff like that, and he speculated on, okay, this is what Giganto could have possibly looked like. But that was only looking at the fossils. We didn't know the genetics of Giganto at that time. Recently, with Gigantopithecus especially, we know it's what we call a pongoid. Pongoids are like orangutan, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the idea that Giganto looked like a giant gorilla is very not common nowadays. It most likely looked like a giant orangutan. If anyone's ever seen the movie, the live-action version of The Jungle Book, in that movie, King Louis is like a Gigantopithecus.
Right.
Most likely, that's what the real life species look like, a giant orangutan.
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked on the show. People are, that's a Gigantopithecus that just escaped extinction. There's a lot of different versions of primates. That's just one.
Yes. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and the description of Bigfoot don't match that most of the time of orangutan.
Yes. Like me personally, I have my own candidate for Sasquatch. And it's not Gigantopithecus, it's another species called Dryopithecus. Dryopithecines were literally means oak ape in Latin. These species of this genera of it was a group of different primates found in Europe during the Miocene about 20 million years ago. And it's really interesting because I bring it up, especially in my second book, Sasquatch Prehistory. A lot of the anatomy of these species of primates is very interesting because some had longer lumbar spines, longer legs, which suggested at least semi-bipedal locomotion. So these primates, especially Oreopithecus, for instance, Oreopithecus was a bipedal primate about 20 million years ago. If you look at our own human lineage, it popped up about 2 million years ago. So we see a primate that's not related to Homo sapiens evolving to become bipedal almost 10 million years before our lineage ever came out. Now, if you look at the environments these creatures lived in, they were much more similar to the Florida Everglades and Yellowstone National Park than what we now see in like Asia and stuff like that. So, for my at least hypothesis I put forward is that some species of Dryopithecine, I don't know for sure yet which one. There could be Rudopithecus, Oreopithecus, came to North America around circa 15 million years ago and evolved to become what we now know as Sasquatch. Because when you look at Sasquatch, there's one big issue with it. Why is it so big? Why is it so specialized? Because we've seen throughout the fossil record that highly specialized species become extinct really quickly, especially large animals.
Right.
Look at Pleistocene North America. We had the Arctodus simus, the short-faced bear, mastodons, mammoths, and all these animals went extinct. So, why is Sasquatch still here? Well, if you look at Sasquatch, it fits perfectly in to Pliocene and Pleistocene North America. In my opinion, I think Sasquatch is a surviving megafaunal species that, thanks to its intelligence and adaptability, has been able to survive into the modern day and be seen by us modern humans.
It would have to be adaptable, with food sources changing, environment changing. If it migrated, moved from over the land bridge to North America from that area. But, the thing is, tonight we'll get into is all these, there's all these other versions and variations of Bigfoot.
Yes.
Or something else is not Bigfoot. You can get into, the devil monkeys are definitely something different and scary as hell to me. But they're maybe all, again, part of this primate family, groups of different evolutionary spin-offs that have because they're primates, they're intelligent enough to adapt to their environments and to migrate into different environments, that they're still here. Because there's vast majorities of our national forests that people don't go to ever or see. That nobody would know if somebody was there.
Yeah. And that's what my third book, Beyond Bigfoot's really about. Because I wrote it right after my second book, Sasquatch Prehistory, because I pretty much in recent years, what really got me to write this third book was in recent years we've had the type chart I've seen. There are 10 types of Bigfoot. You have the type 1s, type 2s, type 3s. And I look at that and I'm like, that doesn't make sense a lot. A lot of these types of Bigfoots probably just what we call ecomorphs. Thanks to the environmental factors, the Sasquatch species changes morphologically, but not phenologically, not genetically. But there are things being seen out there that clearly are not Sasquatch. For instance, the big three I bring up is North American apes, the guggery, and the devil monkey. And let's break down the devil monkey first. Pretty much, if anyone's seen After Earth, the movie with Will Smith and his son, like the giant,
long time
yeah,
ago.
the giant baboons from that movie.
Yeah,
Can
sorry.
you imagine seeing those but in real life?
Have you ever
Baboon
seen
the size of like size of like a human, like a
Have you ever
6
seen
foot.
Congo? Michael Crichton's Congo.
Yes,
Is it
like
like that kind of too? Because those were
very
scary as
similar to
hell.
that. Yeah, because
Yeah.
those are like very similar to like what they describe it as is like a muzzle, like a baboon's head, giant baboon's body, long tail. But interestingly, these devil monkeys are seen with 3 toes, and usually 3 to 5 fingers. So there's missing digits, which is a very peculiar aspect of them anatomically. But these were talked about ever since the 60s. Mark Hall and Lauren Coleman, two very famous cryptozoologists, started looking at Bigfoot sightings and like, wait, these aren't Bigfoots that people are seeing. They're describing like a chimpanzee, like almost like a baboon. And for me, I went into research into the devil monkey because it's such an interesting cryptid. And I was like, okay, so what are these things? How did they get to North America? One interesting theory a lot of people bring up is another species called Dinopithecus. Dinopithecus was a giant prehistoric baboon found in Africa. These were pretty much baboons the size of humans. And these
Oh,
were
that's
actually
scary.
known for hunting our early ancestors, like Australopithecines and Paranthropus. So our early ancestors were getting hunted by giant human-sized baboons. That's a sci-fi movie I do not want to watch.
Right. But have you ever? I mean, you see those? You ever see a picture of these? Like, what do you call them? The baboons that they have like that snout and the teeth. They always are
Yeah,
at you.
the
And every
giant
time you see a photo, they scare the hell out of me. Imagine running into that the size of you in a forest.
Yeah.
I want to run into Harry and the Hendersons Bigfoot. I don't want to run into that.
There's a reason they call it the devil monkey. And it's like, I bring it up and I'm like, okay, so with the Gynopithecus theory, I don't really suspect that because it's how could a giant baboon get to North America from Africa? But then I looked into the North American prehistory. Not a lot of people realize primate evolution started in North America about 50 million years ago. The earliest known primates were here in North America. They're called prosimians and plesiodactyliforms. If you looked at these animals, you probably would have thought they were more like a squirrel than a monkey. But these primates evolved here in North America. And I'm like, okay, so what if these creatures somehow survived into the modern day? And one big thing with cryptozoology is what a little thing called convergent evolution, comparing different species that looked very similar, that were maybe caused by similar ecology, similar morphology, stuff like that. And if you look at the double monkey, what does it look like? A giant baboon. If you look at baboons, or what we call papionins, geladas, baboons, mandrills, they're very
Mandrills,
more
that's what I was trying to think of.
yeah, they're very morphologically similar to devil monkeys. And if you look at prehistoric North America, what was prehistoric North America like? Giant open lands, ungulates, elephants, stuff like that. And that's where baboons live in today. So I bring up the theory that possibly one of these primates evolved, become convergently evolved with baboons because of the similar environments. And that's why we see them today, because we all know that primates are highly adaptable. We are one species that's hard to go extinct. Because one big thing is they're omnivorous. There's sightings of these devil monkeys eating deer, killing livestock, stuff like that. So that shows that they're omnivores. They most likely aren't just straight carnivores, because that's very uncommon for primates. I think technically the most carnivorous primate out there are like bush babies, like little itty bitty primates like the size of this. So,
Well,
yes.
but you talk about environment. I mean, if you look at the black bear, it's different. Like if you go more north, they're going to be bigger compared to like the Michigan black bear to the Texas black bear. You go up even more north, you get into grizzlies, which are even bigger. You get into the Arctic, you got polar bears, which are huge. They're all related in some sense genetically, but their environments change. I mean, the black bear, it's the same genetic creature, but it's different sizes from different environments.
Yeah. What you're bringing up is a little biological principle called Bergman's law. Bergman's law states that any animals in higher latitudes are larger than animals in lower latitudes. Like polar bears. Polar bears are bigger, higher latitudes. Grizzly bears right in the middle, a little bit smaller. Black bears, stuff like that. We've seen that in humans as well. Like Neanderthals are a little bit more robust than modern humans because they evolved up in Europe and not in Africa. We've also seen this within Bigfoot footprints. The Bigfoot footprints and sightings are much larger in Canada and Alaska than here in the lower 48s. There's been sightings of Bigfoot up in Canada and Alaska 10, 11 foot tall.
Right.
While here in the lower 48s, we get maybe 9 foot tall at the max.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
we
look at skunk ape in Florida is not
like
generally described as very big, you know.
like
I mean,
7, 8
big,
foot
but
tall.
not that big.
Yeah. So that's one thing I love with cryptozoology. We literally see a biological principle that people shouldn't really know about being reflected in a not real animal.
Right.
It's a very interesting thing when that happens.
Yeah, and you're just getting it from the eyewitness testimonies from the people who've seen it, and from Canada down to Florida. You know, from different eyewitness testimonies, they're not thinking about that principle. They're just telling you what they saw, but it matches up to what we know, how biology works with the environment and location. What is it that makes is that principle? They explain what it is by being higher, north makes something bigger.
What it is, it's the ratio between inner volume and skin. Because if you have a bigger body, you're easier to hold in the warmth. That's why if you go into humans, if you go into more cold environments, usually you might get a little bit bigger. People get a little bit taller. Look at Norwegian countries. A lot of people there are usually 6 foot and above. People in the equator usually max out by 5'6", 5'5". It's
Well, I
because
said my best friend's huge Norwegian background, and his wife too. They ended up meeting. She was in Seattle. He's here in Michigan City, and they ended up meeting by a chance on a line. And they're both huge ancestry in Norwegian. And he will be sweating. He's a big guy. He'll be sweating. I'm just freezing. You know what I'm saying? His grandkid, his little baby, 7 months old, has got to have the fan on him. I'm like, that's that Norwegian blood, bud. That's that Norwegian blood. It's you you got way more insulation than me.
Yeah. So you see that principle that even in prehistory, that's why animals during Pleistocene and the Pliocene were a lot larger than they are today. For instance, one big thing, one of my specialities is Cenozoic life. Prehistoric animals like the American lion, Smilodon fatalis, short-faced bear, the American mastodon. You see that North America truly had some monsters back in the day. For instance, I own a replica skull of the short-faced bear. This bear, when it stood on 2 legs, was 13, 14 feet tall. So if you look at Bigfoot, no wonder Bigfoot's big. Because if these animals were around back then, they had to compete with these creatures.
Right.
And it also might reflect on why they're so intelligent. Because, let's be honest, if you were a Bigfoot and you saw a short-faced bear, would you rather fight it or avoid it? I'd rather avoid it. So that's probably why they're so intelligent nowadays.
Well, most creatures, their survival instinct is for prey is they're going to pick easy prey. They're not going to pick something that's going to threaten them or cause them energy. Thank you. Yeah, I was going to show it. Thank you, Summerside, too, for the $10 donation. Yes, you can donate people on Super Chat or on our Patreon if you go find us at Jason Bland Paranormal Soup. Thank you for the donation, Summerside. But that now I lost my train of thought. But thank you for the donation. Dang it! Now I lost my train of thought. You go ahead.
Good. It's if you look at prehistory, we had a lot larger animals. And it makes sense why these Bigfoots and some other cryptids would be the same size, would be just as large. And even convergent evolution between cryptids, maybe if one thing I bring up in my 3rd book, Beyond Bigfoot, if there were other species of primates living in North America, maybe they would compete with each other and maybe affect each other physiologically and behaviorally.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So the point is that if you're hunting something, are you going to go after the big thing that could hurt you, or are you going to go after that little small thing that doesn't even know you're there?
Yeah.
Animals don't just go out and fight to fight.
No.
It's always about survival. It's always about the easiest, quickest way to get their food source that's not going to get them in any kind of trouble or danger.
Yeah.
And especially if they're an intelligent primate.
Yeah, of course. Like with Bigfoot, like at least me personally, I don't really know a lot of stories of Bigfoot fighting moose, but I've heard plenty of stories of Bigfoot hunting deer. Because if I was a large omnivore like a Bigfoot, I wouldn't go after like a moose or something big like that. Yes, that's a lot of food, but also that's a lot more risk. I like to tell people this isn't a dinosaur documentary. Animals just don't fight the fight. They're not out there like, oh, I'm the biggest, baddest thing, I'm going to kill everything else. That's not how nature works. Nature works with survival. How do you survive? You avoid a fight. That's why, like with, for instance, Sasquatch, I like to bring this up, and some other kind of cryptids. If these creatures were truly like the monsters, like people like to talk to them about, we wouldn't be in the woods in the first place. Like, if these animals like do exist, which they most likely do, they're very passive. Like even with known primates, there's no known stories of the gorillas attacking humans in the wild. There's only a couple of examples of chimpanzees attacking humans, and that's usually in a defensive route.
Yeah.
These creatures are intelligent. They know to avoid a fight. They do not try to cause one.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. And Summerside, you're fine. It's not your bad. I'm tired. I lost my train of thought. It's not your bad. Thank you for your $10 donation. But I mean, even like I can't remember the guy's name that died. That was like a famous grizzly bear researcher. I mean, grizzly bears are aggressive. They're known to be aggressive. They are not something to toy with. But he spent I can't think of his name. Him and his girlfriend,
Timothy Treadwell,
and his girlfriend got mutilated by these grizzly bears. But that's after him going and making many, many trips and spending a lot of time where they didn't. But once they got used to him, once he was fine and didn't think he was a threat anymore, they did what grizzly bears do. They killed him.
They made food. they see it as a food source.
But they were cautious for a long time. His safety he thought he had, or the bond he thought he was making, really wasn't there, I don't think. I think it was just the grizzlies going, okay, you're not going to hurt us, you're not going to hurt us, okay, lunchtime.
Yeah. And even, for instance, the Treadwell incident, Timothy Treadwell was at this location in a place, and time of year he's usually not up there. He was up there right before the start of winter. That's when the bears are the most aggressive because they're trying to get on calories for hibernation. And literally, his girlfriend and multiple people told him, don't go up there that time of year because they're highly aggressive. And he still didn't listen, and we saw what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, they sadly had to shoot two of the grizzlies, if I remember right, when they got up there to find their remains. Those grizzlies are being grizzlies,
Yeah.
I love people that want to venture out and do the research, but, respect nature.
Yeah.
Or it's going to bite you in the ass, literally. They say the tapes float out there in the dark web because there was a videotape of the girlfriend and that. I would never want to watch that. I still have nightmares from I Survived, or the woman tells the story of a grizzly bear eating her children.
Yeah.
I still have nightmares of that. But that's the thing. That's the thing. That nature, people, you talk about people giving, being the frightening aspect of Bigfoot, that they're passive and all that. There are some cases, some versions that are somewhat aggressive. One of the ones you talk about in the book is the gugwe. If I've understood, that's more of an aggressive creature compared to your normal Bigfoot sighting.
Highly aggressive. And oral traditions of the Native Americans, the gugwe literally translates as face eater. These gugwees, imagine the devil monkey we were talking about earlier. Imagine the head on that thing on the body of a Bigfoot. So these are Bigfoot-like creatures, giant mandrill-like muzzles, sharp teeth, long claws. Some people like to call them the polar bears of Bigfoots. Highly aggressive, highly carnivorous, and highly, just known for killing whatever is in the area. I've gotten reports of people out there saying they've had Bigfoot on their land, And then out of nowhere, they start seeing something new, this Guggery, and it pushes the Bigfoot out. These are most likely uh, lone hunters, probably hardly carnivorous. But there's not a lot of stories of them hunting, picking berries and eating fish. But there's a lot of stories of them hunting humans. For instance, the Native American stories would talk about stories of these Guggeries digging pits and waiting for humans to run by. Humans fall in, and they're able to almost hunt humans. So these Guggery creatures, I don't believe they are Bigfoot. I believe there's something else. Personally, I think what they could be is an offshoot of Devil Monkey, because if you look at the Devil Monkey and the Guggery also has 3 toes, also has that mandrill-like muzzle, but it's more human-like. What I brought
And
up
bigger
earlier,
too, right? It's
yeah,
bigger too.
they're described to be like 8 foot tall, like the size of Sasquatch. I put out the theory that okay, if this Guggery exists, maybe it's an offshoot of Devil Monkey that convergently evolved to become more Bigfoot-like.
Right.
Because I kind of put the whole. This sounds really. If you look at it realistically, it makes sense. If this Devil Monkeys evolved here in North America and became this more kind of like baboon-like creature, and then circa 15 million years ago, Sasquatch came into North America. What happens when another primate enters a new location? The indigenous primates have to adapt. They have to change. What if some of them changed by becoming more Bigfoot like, convergently evolving alongside these creatures that just came into the environment? That might make sense. But also, a lot of times, one thing I bring up with the book is like telling people Bigfoot exists and is out there in the woods is hard enough. But then you tell them that there's 4 or 5 different other things out in the woods living alongside them, then the plausibility kind of decreases. Because one thing I always bring up is cryptozoology is a science. Science is about plausibility, not just possibility. What's the likelihood of something occurring, not just can it occur, which is one thing with cryptozoology. Like when people bring up like, okay, I've seen a Bigfoot on my land, cool. I've also seen a dogman, okay, cool. I've also seen a black panther. So you've seen like 3 or 4 different types of cryptids on your one piece of property. The plausibility there is just very low. Does it mean it's not occurring? Not necessarily, but the plausibility is not likely.
It could mean that they are in a place, when we get into the woohoo paranormal part of it, in a place that's like Skinwalker Ranch, where they're glimpsing other realities or other things from other dimensions. When you start getting into that many different things showing up, doesn't mean they're not seeing them.
Yeah.
But we could be dealing with something we just don't understand, beyond the understanding of like just some primate we haven't discovered. There's like I said, I believe we have to start with the physical evidence that there's possibly this primates that have evolved alongside of us that we have not recognized. But yeah, you get these stories from people I think are honestly telling what they're seeing and experiencing sometimes that are like, wow, you got a plethora of things going on there. But like biology and is this are you going to have a big black cat and a dogman and a Bigfoot all roaming around the same territory for the same food sources?
No,
It's not usually going to happen.
The competition between them will cause an extinction. Like that's one thing. Like I bring up. Like recently, we've come into like the dogman area. Like to say cryptozoology. This dogman phenomenon is very common nowadays. Sightings of these werewolf-like creatures. And when I first got into this field, I was very much, oh, this is a flesh and blood creature. It must be something living in the woods. But then I broke it down. I'm like, wait, no, there's something else going on here because a lot of people talk about Bigfoot and Dogman being in the same area. Biologically, it doesn't make sense. Niche differentiation. These creatures are very similar. They would outcompete each other to extinction. So that must, for me, show that there's something else going on here that's not physical, not biological in principle.
And a lot of times with the dogman encounters, there is other paranormal stuff going on. There's definitely. I mean, it does happen with Bigfoot stories, but with dogman, I think it's a lot more of an occurrence. With people seeing these things, there's something beyond, like lights in the woods or just
Mind
weirdness
speak and
or
stuff like that.
mind speak. Yeah, that's one. I mean, Heather, a caller of ours, like I was telling you before the show, called in a couple weeks ago about her dogman encounters that she had seen one with glowing red eyes, and her mom has seen it, and other people probably have seen it in her trailer park since the eclipse, I believe it was. They're seeing it now, but she also saw a lady in a white dress in a ditch, I believe she said, or something. She had a whole apparition thing happen, and I think there's other weird stuff going on, like there's this weirdness that attaches to that. So it's hard, I bet, being a cryptozoologist when you're trying to keep into the biological, physical science of Bigfoot and maybe and these other offshoots, because it does run into this land of we don't know, like total other dimensions, creatures, things we don't still understand about our own reality, I think is going on. But I do think there's something, a physical creature that definitely that exists out there that we just haven't recognized yet. I think we have both these scenarios going on right now.
Yeah. Like, for instance, a good friend of mine, Jason McLean, him and a good research buddy up in North Texas, Tex Wesson, there's a location they research called Brown Springs, Oklahoma. This place is known for Bigfoot sightings. We've had a couple dogman sightings out there. There's also a haunted cemetery. There's multiple Native American burial grounds. So me and Jason have made kind of joke of like, I want to research Bigfoot, but there's like 10 different things going on here.
Right.
So how do we get away from the more paranormal stuff and just research Bigfoot? But there's a lot of other things going on at the same time.
There is. I was asking Heather when she had called in about hers, like, is there any Indian ancient burial grounds? Because with dogmen, there's a lot of these factors that pop in, like they're by, a lot of times Indian burial grounds and other places where weird strangeness like this happens. Bigfoot seems to always be around that area too, though. That's the thing. Like, what if we're dealing with? I'm going to throw this out there with Bigfoot. He is biological. He is some part of the primate family. But you know how certain special humans have abilities, psychic abilities. Tibetan monks can do incredible things. What if Bigfoot's tapped into something? They're able to do like things extraordinary. They're a part of nature. Maybe they're able to tap into things like remote viewing and psychic activity, or things that are we think are abnormal, but really are a part of our evolution. These abilities.
Yeah, which is a possibility.
It could explain some of the weirdness around Bigfoot. I mean, Bigfoot. I've had people on the show that had Bigfoot encounters where they feel like, just like the dogmen, they had mind speak. The Bigfoot was telepathically communicating with them. So that would be an example of the Bigfoot maybe having some higher spiritual ability than we do.
Yes.
And then you talk about wild men of the woods and stuff like that in Europe. I mean, you did the book Cryptids of the World, but I don't know how much you got into the idea. I mean, Ancient Aliens made this. They make a lot of propositions, but like Green Man, Wild Men of the Woods, and Merlin, that these could have been Bigfoot in a sense. That these wild men of the woods, that they had knowledge of medicines and of magic. That they could have been, Bigfoot, but they at some point were closer to humans and were maybe are like Merlin in the woods or wild men in the woods, the Green Man, or these and taught us things until they got sick of us humans.
Yeah. And like that's like one thing I look at with Bigfoot and stuff like that is like the convergence between like Bigfoot and other cryptids, and also the convergence between Bigfoot and known animals. Like for instance, there was a question earlier I believe I saw about like Bigfoots and bears. Like, I think it was questioning when we're like do Bigfoots use dens like bears do? It's a possibility. For instance, what does everyone think about with Bigfoot? They're in caves, stuff like that. There's even been references, like for instance, in Ohio, the Ohio grassman. These animals making like almost like weaved structures. So, me personally, I think if Bigfoot, when they're like nesting, it's very similar to great apes. Not very much similar to like bears and things like that, but very similar to like how gorillas make nests. There's been stories of people in Bigfoot areas seeing these giant nest-like locations. So maybe they make nests, maybe they make like kind of like very archaic woodwalls, like kind of like teepee-like structures. There's a friend of mine here in San Antonio that does a lot of Bigfoot research, and he's found like stick structures. This is something else Bigfoot could use. So maybe with these stick structures, they look so natural that a regular layman wouldn't really be able to identify it as like a stick structure. They might just see a bunch of sticks.
True. I mean, we had one video on here where the people were coming upon like one of these stick structures, and they started messing with it, and there was a guy, like it looked like a big giant coming down the hill at him. What was that? That was years ago. Can't remember what was that one. I think it was in Canada. They were hiking along. They found like one of these structures like this, and next thing you know, they get out because this thing's coming down the mountain at them. You could see it. You could see its silhouette. It looked huge, and they were like, "We're not sticking around." They didn't know if it was somebody living out in the woods they messed with their home or what, but it was pretty primitive like stick structure they found. Yeah, it was the video.
Yeah.
We had that on the World Wide Web.
Yeah, I know which one you're referencing. The something mountain video. Like you see these bunch of kids messing with this thing, and you hear one kid, "Oh, it's Bigfoot! Bigfoot's up on the hill." You see this bipedal creature coming down the hill. That's one thing that's a well-known video, because like with stick structures and things like that, I think they do correlate with Sasquatch to an extent, because I've seen some myself that it's like giant 50, 60-foot logs and stuff getting wedged into trees that I can't see a kid doing that. There's nowhere where a bobcat or some type of truck can do this. So something with a great bit of strength and hands did that. Not a bear, not a moose, not a deer. Something that's highly intelligent and that has the dexterity to be able to do stuff like that.
There's that one video. I don't know. I mean, you'll probably be like, "Oh yeah, that's total crap." But I saw it. One of my coworkers sent it to me. I think it was this year, but I think it's old. Where you actually see like the trees, like grabbing a tree. Like you can see it like grabbing a tree, moving these huge logs, and you can see like a black figure back in the background, but then it disappears, and you can see like the big tree moving and stuff.
Yeah,
was that fake or hoax? But these things obviously right, they're 8, 10 feet tall. They can move some trees. They can definitely make some kind of structure, and you think they got to be living somewhere. They got to be sheltering somewhere. I mean, right now, I mentioned on the show they have all the rain floodwaters in North Carolina and all that stuff. What is it like for these creatures to survive in that kind of conditions of a massive flooding, and like what are they doing?
Actually, it was an interesting thing I can bring up with that. Last year, earlier this year, I was a speaker at the Falk Monster Festival out in Falk, Arkansas. People know about the Boggy Creek Monster. That's where that took place. And this is the first time I was ever in Falk. And the couple of weeks beforehand, it was like nothing but rainstorms. So all these river bottoms filled up with water. Within that week, we received like 5 or 6 different Bigfoot reports, all at the same time. And what the locals were saying is that these creatures live in the river bottoms, but because of the flooding, it pushed them out up into the dry land where the humans were living. So I was like, okay, that's interesting, because we see the same thing where like there's been stories of Sasquatches, people seeing having more Sasquatch sightings before rainstorms and before hurricanes, because some people have speculated even they might know it's coming, because dogs know when a big rainstorm is coming, so do cats. Maybe these animals know too. Maybe they can like just feel it in their bones, kind of.
If they've made it this long, they've survived this long, then I would take a good bet that they probably have a really good sense of how to survive these kind of conditions. They have a pre-knowledge.
Yeah. One well-known story is Mount St. Helens.
Right.
People telling stories of people seeing the government found dead Bigfoot bodies and stuff like that on Mount St. Helens after the eruption.
Oh, yeah. I mean, my wife is like, I don't know, there's a video going around, I haven't got to research it. Some guy saying they had a Bigfoot in a barn. Have you seen that one? After all this, like the flooding that they drove a Bigfoot into a barn and that they were trying to cover it up in helicopters from the government. That's a thing. That's a whole other thing to get into. What does our government know about this? National parks, right? You know, do they do things to cover these things up or hide these creatures? It makes you wonder, and to what end or what purpose?
Yeah. Well, actually, speaking about that, there's always a joke me and my friends make of like, all my friends that know about my cryptozoology and stuff, they're like, remember, if you ever shoot a Bigfoot, don't ever let anyone know because the second you do, a black SUV rolls up in your front yard or something. Because there's been stories of like people shooting these things, shooting Bigfoots, shooting Dogman, and the next second or like a day later, a black SUV would have been a black roll up.
Right.
And are these stories true? There's a possibility that they are, and it's like, okay, why are you hiding this? Why is there hiding these giant apes living in the woods? You think, okay, these are just giant beings living in the woods. Well, no, there's more to that. Because if these are real, they're most likely our closest living relatives. And not to mention the whole, are these Bigfoot, are they human or are they non-human? Some people think these are human ancestors. And if they are, let's just say, related to like Neanderthal or something like that, are these humans? Then there's a whole other issue of like, if we discover these creatures, they're humans, do they get human rights?
Right.
Do we have some weird new voting block out in the woods we have to go look for now? Like, it's a lot of stuff a lot of questions we have to ask, because if we were ever given disclosure on Bigfoot, we have to like have at least an idea of what we're going to do if that day ever comes.
Yeah, I mean, and then we give them protection and their own like habitats and all this other stuff that federal bureaucracy doesn't want to probably deal with. But I don't know. I feel like there's a darker reason for them covering it up too, like something else they don't want us to know about our ancient past, or I don't know. But it makes me wonder. Go ahead, Jamie.
What do you think of the theory where some people say that there's no evidence of any Bigfoot remains because UFOs actually zap them back up and clean up the dead Bigfoot?
Oh, that's whatever.
With that one, well, actually, I've heard some people bring that up before.
I've heard that like a few times, and
yeah,
I don't know what to make of that.
It goes hand in hand with like a lot of people think these Bigfoots are aliens. Some people think they might originate from extraterrestrials. Me personally, I don't believe that, but that's not where my research really has led me. Some people's research has led them to that conclusion. And
because the UFO sightings that are corroborated, there's some witnesses that have seen a UFO and then seen a Bigfoot, like not long after.
Yeah. Like, and I think Pennsylvania does well-known sightings, like 5 or 6 UFO sightings, and then like 2 Bigfoot sightings in the same week. And the idea that maybe these aliens are taking their bodies, there's a possibility, because I like to bring this up. Like, my good friend Jason McLean I brought up before, he gives people this thought. Okay, you're out in the middle of the woods, and you see an 8-foot-tall creature, full black, glowing red eyes. What did you see? You saw a Bigfoot. You're in your bedroom, and you see an 8-foot-tall creature, glowing red eyes, all black. What did you just see? You saw a demon, extraterrestrial, something like that. Only thing that changed was the environment you're in. So I've come to the idea that what if these Bigfoots could be something else going on there as well? Because we've gotten mind speak, orbs, stuff like that with Bigfoot. Maybe there is something also going on here that's maybe something more supernatural, maybe even extraterrestrial. Because think about it, if you're an extraterrestrial species and I've made this joke too. If humans get abducted by aliens, why wouldn't they abduct Bigfoot? If I was an extraterrestrial species and I saw that thing in the woods, I'm like, ooh, I want to research that now too.
Especially if it's genetically related to us.
Yeah.
And if it's all about the genetics that the aliens are studying in us, they're probably studying them too.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe that's why people spot Bigfoot, because Bigfoot's like, man, the aliens are trying to butt probe me. I'm moving. I'm hiding. I'm changing my nest to another location. You know, I mean, maybe, or maybe they're pets of aliens and they take them out for a walk. I don't know. You know, but there is these stories where people see these things, and that's you know, like I said, you're great because you have to keep in that wheelhouse of like, okay, let's just look at the history, the biology. You know, there's things we got to look at too, like food sources, like how does 800,000 pound creature survive? Well, so do bears. You know,
there's like one thing.
Go ahead.
Like one thing with cryptids, I always break it down into 3 aspects. Was the morphology? Well, 4. Was the ecology? What is the behavior? And where did it originate? Because no animal just pops up. That's not how nature works. We don't have DLCs. We don't just pop in a new animal. They have a natural history. That's one thing I bring up with cryptids is what is the natural history of these creatures? What is the likelihood of these being some type of physical creature? And then if that's not the answer, then we can get into like, okay, what if they're paranormal? What if they're extraterrestrial? What if they are ultra-dimensional? Things like that.
We got ultra dimensional. See, I had my shadow person experience, so I got really deep into like these other entities. Some people call it a demon that I experienced, but you talk about the tall, black, red eyes. That's what I saw in my room. Okay, it would attack me at night. Yeah, if I saw that in the woods, maybe I would think that was a Bigfoot. But I don't know if you're a Harry Potter fan, but you remember the bogey you have in the closet? It would take the shape of whatever your fear was.
Yeah.
Well, I always or the Bogart. That's it, bogey. Bogart. Thank you. There, Harry Potter. You know it. But I always said my shadow person always felt was like a parasite. It fed off my fears, and it could have became something, whatever it is, to shape to my fears. Kind of like It and Stephen King. You know, he's the clown because most people fear clown, but if you read the book, he changes different things. He becomes different things to other people's fears. That we might not understand that are certain parasitic, ultra-dimensional entities that take shape to our fears and expectations. You're out in the woods, what are you going to see? A big hairy creature that's going to scare the crap out of you. A werewolf, a Bigfoot, whatever. Yeah. And I point this out to like the Skinwalker case and the Bell Witch case. So I always compare these two. The Bell Witch started with the father and son going out in a field and a wild beast they encounter.
Yeah.
And then all this other crazy paranormal stuff happens. That's the Bell Witch, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Skinwalker Ranch. What happens? The father and son are out. They have cattle and they have a big fence, and this big beast tries to like eat one of the cattle and pull it out. It all starts with that, and then all the other craziness follows. Yeah. There's a beast in the woods. And is there something that's like the Bogart that's reacting to our expectations, something primal, and it's feeding off our fear? And the best way to get the primal way to, if you were a primate human trying to survive early days of these things around, the way to get fear or get that juice from you is to give you a beast in the woods, a beast in the field, some kind of beast to scare you. We got to go to commercial break. We'll open up the phone lines when we come back. But our guest tonight is Ryan Edwards. We're talking about Beyond Bigfoot, the other unrecognized primates of North America. Call in tonight. If you had a primate, Bigfoot, weird creature experience, I'd love to hear from you tonight. Ryan would love to hear from you. Or you got a question tonight for our guest, please call in. Don't forget to, like Summerside, $10 donation on Super Chat. You can donate to the show. And I did miss Summerside's question. I saw the donation. I got distracted, but thank you, Jamie. Thank you for the great question, Summerside. We will look for questions in the chat room. It's just there's a lot of them go by. But if you make a donation, you're definitely going to get your question asked on here. So thank you. All right, guys, we'll be right back after a short commercial break.
Conducting an experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Do you wish for more paranormal and spiritual content? The Paranormal Chronicles magazine is a free digital magazine crammed with the very best in paranormal and spiritual articles and features. No sign-up, no subscription, just free reading and knowledge for you. Read today at www.paranormalchronicles.com/magazine.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your host, Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do voices from beyond the cold case files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Paranation Magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, follow us on Facebook at Paranation Magazine and soon, paranationmag.com.
I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is the extraordinary travels of a young, alone, and broke psychic in the highly anticipated new book from internationally renowned psychic, medium, medical intuitive, and best-selling author Sherry Dillard. Critics have described I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like as an engrossing memoir, an empowering story of how a broken girl came to accept her psychic gift, a refreshing and fun read. I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is available through Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and wherever books are sold.
Wrote Spirits of the Dead with a pen dipped in warm blood. You will see the ultimate in terror with this important all-star cast. Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda in Edgar Allan Poe's Spirits of the Dead. Only Poe's demented genius could bring to the screen such horror and evil. Spirits of the Dead stars Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda. Directed by three masters of the cinema, Federico Fellini, Louis Malle, and Roger Vadim. Spirits of the Dead is an adventure in terror beyond your wildest nightmares. Spirits of the Dead in color is rated R.
So they're okay. So, does anybody want to play Parcheesi? Okay, who brought the dog?
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID OOJBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guest is Ryan Edwards, author of Beyond Bigfoot, the Other Unrecognized Primates of North America. We're talking about devil monkeys, gugwe, North American apes. I really want to get more into the gugwe, too, because that one is frightening. And what is his relation maybe to dogmen? There's some similarities, but differences. Things like that I want to get into. And yes, please call in, Drake. I saw somebody, Drake said, I should call in. Yes, you should always call in. And the phone lines are now going to be open as soon as I can get it to work here. There we go. Phone lines are open. Call into the show. Join the conversation. Drake, definitely join the conversation. Call into the show. Let's get back to our guest. We were talking about, we're talking about these other creatures out there besides the Bigfoot. That sometimes maybe get confused with Bigfoot and all that, but like the gugwe is a very interesting one to me. Like I was telling you before the show, I've been really kind of into dogmen lately, all that stuff. And the gugwe, There's a we were talking about it before the show. Let me get my share screen up here. The 7 shoots photo of the Gugwe.
Yes.
7 shoots, is that what it was? Yeah. Oops, that's the
Yeah.
wrong thing. Let me see.
Le Parc de 7 Shoots. It's a well-known natural reserve up in Quebec, Canada.
And I'm trying to remember the story. Somebody got this picture. Let me share it to give an idea. I mean, it's as blurry, of course, as you can get on something like this, but
Yeah.
ain't it always? Ain't it always? And if it is too clear, it's Jack Links. No, I'm joking. Where did it go? I know I put this in here. I wanted to show this. What did I do with it? Oh, I know I put it in here. Did I not update my folder? No, I did. Where is it? Dang it. Too much stuff in my folder here. I knew I put... Oh, there it is. Got it. So, yes, like I said, blurry. But this is supposed to be it, like, that's like a deer in its arms or something, right?
There's been 2 big things that what it could be. Some people say it's a deer, and others say it could be a dog, actually. People say that you're seeing a tail, back
Looks
leg,
like a dog to me.
the rump, and the head's on the other end. And story goes that supposedly a couple campers, the white dog went missing the day of that. But that's a story that we can't really corroborate now.
Right.
This photo was taken in the early 2000s. What happened was a guy was out there. We don't know who actually took the photo, but he took a picture of this waterfall. And this creature was in the lower right-hand corner of the photo. And he zoomed in. It's very much one of those things that, like, you take photos, you show them off like a couple weeks after you take them, and someone's like, wait, what's that?
Right.
And he zoomed in, and it's interesting because afterwards, there's a photo that's not really well known, but it's of the person that took the photo standing wherever this creature is standing. To show that that's not pareidolia, that's not a rock, that's not some type of like tree limb that's causing the face to look like that.
Yeah.
That's an actual being that's standing right there. It's an actual creature. And if you look at the height of the person who took the photo, he's believed to be, but he said he's about 6 foot tall. And where this creature is standing, you can barely see his head. So that thing is considerably taller than 6 foot. Some have speculated about 8 to 9 foot tall.
How do
And
you miss that, though, at the waterfall while you're taking the picture?
that's the thing. That's one thing that I always bring up to eyewitnesses as well. I don't like to take the photo. Don't take the photo of the spot where the creature was standing. Take a photo from where the creature was standing to its perspective. What was it looking at? I'm like, the idea that that thing was looking at you while you didn't know it was there, that's a scary thought. But a lot
It
of
also,
things, yes.
it would also be cool to see it panned back. I know that they want to crop it in so you see all the detail, but I'm sure he wasn't that close, right? I came in late. I was dealing with the cats, but if they
I just
had
had this picture.
a further back photo, so you could see.
Yeah, I'd agree. I don't have that.
The original photo, I believe I have it in the book. You see that it's a giant, like it's a waterfall that's to the left of this creature's shoulder and a river. So this creature is standing maybe 30 feet away from a waterfall. And the guy is taking a photo of the waterfall, not the photo of the creature. And that's just a little kind of like speck in the lower right-hand corner. And the person's on a hill overlooking a lower area. And if you look at it, it looks like this creature's on a game trail of some sort. Like it looks like there's an opening behind it. But where it's standing off the game trail. And it's funny because a lot of predators, especially primates like chimpanzees, what they do is they don't walk along game trails, they walk beside them. Because that way they can track whatever's on the game trail, like deer or animals or something like that. A lot of people, when they say when they're in Bigfoot territory, the Sasquatch creatures walk on beside them, not behind them. Predators walk behind. What these creatures are doing, they're They're almost like escorting you out. We like to call it.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
escorting you out of an area, and that's kind of what this animal is showing here. Kind of, it's standing beside a game trail with whatever it's regrettably about to eat right now because it looks like it's holding something in its arm.
I hope it's not a dog.
We all hope. That's what I hope not either. But this is brought up in the Guggery because you see the arm, you see the shoulder, and look at that head. If you look at that head, you see a muzzle, you see kind of like a brow ridge. The head is a very conical shaped with like a kind of like a bright red hair on its head
Yeah.
and a darker face.
And maybe like a muzzle.
Yeah, very reminiscent to like a mandrill or like a baboon.
I was looking at it backwards. The head is closer to us.
Yeah, it's facing forward.
I see.
Yeah, this is a head here.
Yeah. Like you almost see the brow ridge, like the lighter colored areas on the head, that could be like the brows. That's where the eyes are, the muzzle. And some people think this might be like a dogman. One big thing. Dogman are seen to have those pointed ears.
Right.
This creature doesn't have that. And
I mean, that's what they did describe. People, a lot of times, the dogman, that's what they see. They see those, like, Anubis pointed ears.
yeah. Like one big thing is like what the Guggery, that's why there's a difference between the Guggery and Dogman. Recently, in recent years, people are like, isn't a Guggery just a Dogman thing? I'm like, well, no, because it's described to be more primate-like. But even then, you have the whole issue of like, well, this creature is flat-footed. It doesn't have a digitigrade hock, but we get those Dogman reports of flat-footed creatures like human-like legs, not the like canine-like leg with a digitigrade stance. So some people have even come to me like, isn't Guggery just like Dogman, pod Bigfoot? I'm like, well, genetically that couldn't exist. And second of all, there's a lot of differences between it. It's more carnivorous like a dogman, because a dogman, I don't think I see those creatures like picking berries and eating apples. Those things are probably out there just eating whatever they want to. But these Guggeries are very similar. They're very carnivorous, highly territorial, and we've had sightings of Bigfoots living in groups. We believe they might live in family groups. There's been no reference of these Guggery-like creatures living in groups. They're like the true lone wolves of cryptids.
I mean, even Dogman has groups. Like Dogman's, there's sightings of multiples together. You know,
like packs, like canines.
Wolf. Yeah.
Yeah. So like that's why I kind of like reference these as more like the lone wolf of like these primate cryptids seen in North America. Like even some people have talked to me about these devil monkey creatures, like because of their like mandrill or baboon like head. Some people have asked, well, what if these devil monkeys are just like baby dogman, like smaller dogmen? Well, I'm like, well, there's stories of these things climbing in trees, jumping far distances. Like there's been some stories back in Pennsylvania back in the 60s of these, what they used to call these devil monkeys. They would call them kangaroos because these things would get on their back legs and jump like 20, 30 feet. That's not very canine-like characteristic. That's more like primate-like. The arboreal nature, stuff like that. So I think these devil monkeys are truly all some type of primate. What the dogman is, that's even more interesting to me, honestly. Because before we went to that commercial break, we were talking about like fear and things like that. If you honestly look at it, these dogman-like creatures, it's almost like they resonate on fear.
Yes.
Like, how many times have eyewitnesses tell you, like, this thing could have got me, but it didn't get me? Yeah. Or this thing looked like it was...
And they were paralyzed.
Yeah.
In fear.
So, like, I'm trying to think what there was one podcast that called these things fear eaters. That, like, maybe these things maybe persist on fear somehow. Maybe it could be something more demonic, something like that. Because these dogman reports, especially... show more supernatural characteristics.
Heather that called in, her question was that she's seen this thing, she locked eyes with this thing's glowing red eyes, this dogman, and that she'd heard legends or stories or myth that if you looked into the eyes when these things, they take your soul.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing we're talking about. Is this fear, or like, is this something reacting to our fear? Is it going to become the beast of our nightmares to get that juice from us, that fear
I
juice?
think it's totally possible. Totally possible.
We do got somebody on the line here. I want to get to this phone call here. Who we got on the line?
Hey, this is Drake.
I told you, Drake. Thank you for calling in. Hey.
Yeah, it's glad to meet another cryptid, Ryan. I sent a little link just as a little comical thing that you were sending pictures earlier from Amazon. I kind of missed your Web of the Weird at the very beginning, but I scrolled through it real fast. So it just gave me this laugh that one of my radio guys sent me a history of two-way radios, and he actually had a what do you call it, a Big Feet guy character in there holding a two-way radio.
I said that's gonna be the costume of the year. Is the Jack Link's costume now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. Yeah, I thought that would be kind of funny. Yeah, thing. But anyhow, yes, I don't really have a potential question, but I have been around the alley of Joshua Gates back in the day when he was doing a lot of cryptozoology for Destination Truth. Ran into him a few times during that era. So, like I said, I've heard of different stories, but I haven't yet heard of too many other things in the recent era, since I'm now trying to focus on many other things with our paranormal team that we're putting back together, Brian stuff. So, but yes, it was nice running into another person who's definitely into cryptozoology.
Of course, this is a field that I like to meet as many people as I can. And funny how you brought up Josh Gates and Destination Truth. That's actually one of the shows that got me into cryptozoology.
Oh, really?
And a lot of these
Monster
shows.
Quest.
Yeah, Monster Quest. And it's funny now because a lot of people that have been on these shows I work with now, like Ken Gerhard wrote my foreword on my second book. Lowen Coleman wrote the foreword on my third book. So it's like I meet my heroes.
Oh, wow.
I've talked to like Loud Blackburn and Ken Gerhard. I'm like, yeah, I watched you guys when I was a kid, and they're like, don't make us feel old. Don't do that to us. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but they always say the joke.
It happens to the best of us. I've been into so many different fandoms, and yes, one fandom I'm into, we love wearing fuzzy costumes of weird-looking creatures and colorful animals.
Yeah.
You might be able to know which one that is. Yeah.
I love your costumes. They are so cute.
Yeah, there's a huge community of us that have a lot of elaborate stuff in that area. It's a fun art form. But yes, we made some of the characters based on some cryptids too, actually. If you look hard enough in our community, you'll find some of the characters based on some of the cryptids as well.
Yeah.
Comical.
And that's one thing I love doing too, is like fighting cryptids in like regular like movies and stuff like that. Like I remember one day I was watching a whole movie and they brought up like the aswang. That's a cryptid seen out in the Philippines. Like, and I'm like, oh, like some of these people actually do their homework and know what they're talking about.
Yeah, one of my favorite cryptid that I loved always following was Nessie. I remember hearing a lot of stories about that when I was growing up, and I'm not sure what new stories have out there. At one point, they used to have a webcam faced at that lake 24/7, if I remember. They still do. They're still running it. So, yeah, pretty cool stuff that I find. And then there's the Mothman Chronicles, and that was, like you said, Joshua Gates highlighted a lot of stuff that was basically legends and when I was growing up, too, as well. So,
yeah. Like it's with Nessie and all that, I'll be honest, lake monsters, stuff like that, I really stay away from because, first of all, water and me do not mix.
That's how I am.
Second of all, I'm like, I'd rather deal with something in the woods than something in the water because at least in the woods I can kind of see it. I don't want something popping up beside me that I don't know is underneath me.
You don't want to turn to the other guy and go, we need a bigger boat.
Yeah, I don't like that. So, like with these lake monsters, I'm like, I'll leave that to someone else. I'll deal with the stuff in the
I
woods.
get on a boat with that.
Yeah. Or stuff that can fly, like flying cryptid. That's also a thing that terrifies me because I'm like, the idea of something swooping down on you, I think that's just like a natural.
Well, you
fear
said
to have.
we were talking before the show. You said Monster Quest really influenced you early on as a kid. Because you're
Yeah.
23, I'm 45.
Yeah.
I watched it as an adult, but love that show. My kids have. I wonder how it's going to influence it. They love all this cryptid stuff. But you said the Thunderbird. You know,
Yes.
like that. See, it got you because it scared you. You know, the idea of this big freaking bird that could just grab you out of the sky, right?
Yeah, like the Marlon Lowe story of Marlon Lowe was out in Kickapoo, I believe, Illinois, and he was out in his yard playing, I believe it was hide and go seek, and suddenly this giant bird came down, picked him up, and flew off a couple feet with him and dropped him. And that's also an image that stuck in my head when I was like 6. They're like, oh, that's something that's terrifying. And my hometown where I live in right now, San Antonio, Texas. San Antonio back in the 80s was well known for several Thunderbird sightings, well known Thunderbird sightings. So I was like, oh, this is local. This is close by.
And then
Like,
you're just looking up as a 6-year-old in the sky, like, oh.
yeah. Like, in Gerhardt's first book, Big Bird, that was written from a lot of reports here in South Texas. So I was like, okay, like Bigfoot's out in the Northwest. Okay, that's fine, but this stuff's happening in my like backyard. And then of course I found out about East Texas and Bigfoot out there, Beast Boggy Creek, and it really got me into the world of like cryptozoology even more.
Oh yeah. Well, hey man, thank you so much, Drake, for calling in.
No problem. Nice talking again.
All right, man.
You have a good evening.
You too, bud.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, there's there's so much stuff like I told you, my kids love like it's like I got a cryptid guy on tonight. They got to go to bed. They got to be up for school. I got to be up with them. But but I said they might watch it later, so I would keep it PG-13 because I do have some kids that watch it, my own included, and they love anything to do with the cryptid stuff. But they really like these kids. I was telling you about the show because you're a teacher. Are really into the skinwalker, changeling things.
Yeah.
There's some video games and stuff out there I think just really influence this, but they're really into it. They're really into it. Like, I think some of the most popular YouTube stuff lately for this stuff for these kids is like the skinwalker stuff.
Skinwalkers, Wendigos, and how many times people have shown me videos of like weird looking dogs or weird looking people like, oh, it's a skinwalker, because that's one thing with me is taking away the legends and all that to like the reality of it. Like for instance, a good friend of mine, Ryan Tremblay, he's one of the experts in the paranormal in like the skinwalker field.
Yeah.
And like the Yinahalushi. So when people show me
to come on my show,
I got you. And then he's brought up like, yeah, like if you look at it, honestly the word skinwalker originates from the Navajo only. So if you talk about skinwalkers being in like Vermont, that's technically not a skinwalker. That's something else.
Right.
Transformation beings exist in a lot of Native American traditions, yes. What is it? I believe in the Cherokee Nation they have the crow beings, I believe they're called. Ravenmonger. That's a creature that can transform, stuff like that. The Wendigo, to an extent, up in the...
is another changeling. I mean, it's a similar story. If you look at the Wendigo and Skinwalker, they're very similar stories.
Yeah. And also look at how these creatures have changed throughout times. I bring that up especially with the Wendigo. The Wendigo, nowadays, people see it as like a giant bipedal deer with antlers and a human-like face. That never existed.
No, there's a movie. Remember, there was a movie that came out, Wendigo.
Antlers, yeah.
Yeah, antlers.
Like
I think, is that where it got introduced? Because I don't remember it before that.
No, it was introduced earlier in some type, like in the early 90s. Like really in the social media and stuff like that. Like in the regular media, that's how that was introduced. But what happened is the original Wendigo references is something more akin to like what we now know as the rake or flesh gates.
Yeah, my son's really obsessed with the rake right now.
Yeah, like the Wendigo was pale, gaunt, very skinny.
Supernatural TV show got it right.
Yes, and I believe there's a video game that also got it right. Fallout 76 got them correct. The Wendigo is like a fleshgate looking creature, and that's what it referenced as. But when the Europeans came to the Algonquins and brought their old traditions of the lycanthrope and werewolves, That's when the Wendigo became this more like deer-looking creature. And you get reports nowadays of, I saw a Wendigo and it had giant antlers. And I'm like, how can you see something that never existed in old traditions? Unless, I always say this, your reality is based on your perspective.
Right.
People, if you have a preconceived notion of something existing, you expect to see it in your reality. Same idea of if you're a Bigfoot researcher, everything in the woods might be Bigfoot to you. If you're a paranormal researcher, every time you hear a weird sound, you might think it's a ghost. If you're expecting to find something, you will find the evidence for it. A lot of people do that. Some people don't. Some people try to have, like, for instance, myself. When I'm in the woods, Bigfoot's my last thing on my mind, like, because I don't want that confirmation bias.
Yeah.
And the same thing like with these Wendigos and Skinwalkers. Maybe the idea of you believing in something like that in the first place makes you see them in your own reality. Like same idea of like if you're highly religious, you see Jesus' face in a chip. If you're
Or a piece of toast.
Yeah.
Every spider on a ring camera is an angel.
Yes, like it's like the idea of like pareidolia and how our own psychology is also a big aspect of cryptozoology. Like I love studying psychology as well because how does perception cause our own belief sets and our own ideas of like what's out there in reality? And how could something that's more paranormal also affect that? Like for instance, I've heard stories of people that studied Dogman, and soon enough, when they start studying Dogman, they have like weirdly have a sighting or they have dreams about this thing, and it's weird how talking about it brings it on.
Well,
How
look
many
what the Native
people?
Americans did. They'd be like, "Don't talk about it. Don't talk about the Skinwalker. Don't talk about the Wendigo. Don't talk about." You know, in any of these cultures, they always say, "Don't." It's like Lord Voldemort. You mention it, they're going to
Yes.
come around.
Yeah, and that makes it interesting because a natural creature doesn't work like that. If you start talking about black bears, a black bear doesn't just show up to your front yard. Like
Yeah.
this shows you something else is going on here.
So, what does he say? The feral dogs? Is that what he's trying to say? I feel like their Skinwalker crawlers are really just dogs that are not fed.
To an extent, sometimes because like some of these like
The mange
skinwalker
thing.
videos I've seen, yeah, like the chupacabra, for instance, here in South Texas, we're well known for the chupacabra. Like people are like, oh, I saw chupacabra. I'm like, okay, what did it look like? This. I'm like, that's what we.
Oh,
That's
it's a wide variety.
Yeah, that's a
Wide.
mangy coyote because me and my friend Ken Gerhard, we referenced the chupacabra as the goat sucker. It's referencing a behavior, not a physical description.
Right. Because
Like
if you go down to South America, it's a way different description of
Totally
chupacabra
different
than you get
creature.
in Texas.
Yeah.
I had Nick Redfern on.
Yeah.
His what was his book? I have it. Chupacabra Road Trip, which is a great book.
Yeah,
Check it out.
actually, I
It's a
have it on
great
my
book.
bookshelf right there.
Yeah, see, we both got it. Great book, and like that's what I loved about that book is he goes through like here he goes down to South America and talks to witnesses there. And it's still a completely different description of something they're seeing compared to what we're
Yeah.
talking about here in Texas.
And it's funny, like the same thing, like with these like skinwalkers and stuff like that, because they're referencing a behavior, not a physical description. Because even with chupacabra, the first description of the chupacabra came from what was can't remember her name right now, but like the famous photo of like her description of like an alien like creature. Tolentino. She said the days before that she watched the movie Species, the horror movie, and if you look at the monster in Species, it's very similar to what she saw.
Right.
So your own perception, your own reality changes your own perception changes your reality. That could be a misidentification, and then that one misidentification, because it was so popularized, made everyone else think, oh, that's what the chupacabra looks like. That's what it looks like. So when I see something like that, I'm going to automatically call it a chupacabra. Like
This is this comment for your Janice. Old tales in the UK and Ireland of the Fae, they will appear as you may imagine them. You know, think about the Fae and the mirror. You know, you know, this is the whole shapeshifter thing. But like I said, the Bogart from Harry Potter, is this something ultra dimensional I know I've took you down a road you don't go down very often, but
I'm okay with it.
Right, but is this something that reacts like you said? She saw the species, and then she sees this creature, something similar. Is it reacting to give us if your source of energy, what you want from us, you're some ultra dimensional entity, is fear, and you can change our perception or appear to us as however, you're going to go for something that's going to be in our psyche, that's going to frighten us, and primitive things. Like I said, if this is something that goes back to our primitive past, the things we would have been afraid of were beasts and creatures in the woods.
Yeah. And like one thing I bring up is the Fae, for instance. I brought this up a couple months ago. I at a local event. I talked to a paranormal alien abductee, and I referenced this. Old fairy tales talk about people being taken in the middle of the night, babies being changed with changelings, stuff like that. If you look at the modern alien abduction phenomena, it's almost the exact same stuff, but from a different name. So, is this the same phenomena occurring that just has changed throughout time, or is it two other things going on differently? To bring this back to cryptozoology, for instance, in Europe, in the European, in the Isles, they're known for like the black shuck, these
I
black
love the black
dogs,
shucks.
demon dogs, stuff like that.
Demon dogs.
These things aren't seen anymore. But what is seen in Britain nowadays? Large black cats. So, is this the same phenomena, but with a different face? Or is it two different things that aren't connected? Because one big thing with science in general, correlation does not mean causation. If I clap my hands and then a tree falls, I didn't cause that tree to fall. Two things are occurring at the same time that aren't causing one another. And that's one thing with the paranormal research and this cryptozoology in general I try to bring up. Like, for instance, you brought up early in the show, people that have had Bigfoot sightings on their property and then they see a UFO. Like, I've had stories of people saying, like, oh, I see Bigfoots in the woods and I have a ghost person in my house. Like, maybe you just live in a haunted house that also has Bigfoot on the property. Maybe these things are occurring at the same time, but they're not causing one another. Because once like cryptids and stuff like that goes into like the portals and UFOs and stuff like that, it makes it harder because they're trying to answer a question with another question.
Right.
We're not politicians. We're
The answer is
scientists.
42.
Yeah. Like,
They have the right question.
Then you have two things to answer. You have to answer the question of Bigfoot and answer the question of the portal or answer the question of the UFO. So it makes it even more complicated that you can't get to the answers in the first place. So that's why, like, with me, at least scientifically wise, you have to compartmentalize. You have to, like, okay, let's analyze this occurrence, then analyze this occurrence. My good friend Chris Jordan of Curious Realm, he brings up like, yeah, if you have Bigfoot and portals, you have to answer the portal, then Bigfoot. There's no way you can answer both at the same time, and it just complicates things.
Yeah. We had Chris Jordan scheduled to come on. He had to reschedule him. But yeah, we'll be having him on from Curious Realm. Yeah.
Yeah. Good friend of mine.
Yeah, I can't wait to have him on the show. There was it the Palmyra? Is that the name of the case? They did it on Paranormal Witness. I think it was a really interesting
Palmyra
story.
Wolves, I believe.
The Palmyra Wolves, yeah. And in that, this was a couple and their daughter who saw, like we were talking about packs of wolves. This is like a pack of werewolves.
Yeah.
It is
I
an
think it
interesting
was like
story.
7 or 5 of them that they
Yeah.
saw.
And but what's interesting about that, and we got somebody on the line. We'll get your call here in just a second. But what's interesting about that story is that the father didn't mention it to his wife because he felt it was benign, it wasn't going to hurt him. But he had seen like people in period. He'd see this girl in like a white dress going up the stairs, and then another time he woke up to like people in like period, like like farmers' clothing or some period clothing of some kind, standing over his bed. And this is all before that event with the dogman, which they also, like I said, I mentioned glowing lights. That was one of the ones where they saw glowing lights in the woods a couple nights before. That whole story fascinates me. The Palmyra Wolves, like what happened?
Also, like
is it?
the reference that they saw like a human-sized hole in the woods, I think, and it's when they went to investigate.
There was like a den. No, it was like there was a den. The
daughter, I think, found it or something.
Yeah, her and her boyfriend went out to the woods. Yeah, and then they heard a growling coming from it. Yeah. And then there was footprints, and there was, the evidence of some kills that happened there. So it's like they were hanging around for a while. Whatever happened that night with the lights in the woods opened up and let these things in for a while. And then those people got out because they were renters. That's what I always say as a paranormal investigator. Is like when things go bad, when things are getting bad, I never get to go investigate because people get out, especially if they're renting. Forget it. Nobody's going to deal with it. Nobody wants to live with it. Nobody wants to live in fear. People get the heck out.
Yeah.
That's what they do. Well, let's get to this other phone call. Who do we got on the line?
Hi, Jason. This is Ariana.
Hey.
Hi, Jamie, Rob,
Hey,
and Ryan Edwards.
Yes.
And Ryan Edwards. A few maybe questions and comments. I was wondering, could these cryptid creatures be missing links that haven't been discovered to our chain of what we are now, our humanity? And my second question would be is if they were related somewhere on the evolution of humans, and they mated or bred with us in the present age, would they start a new species because of the way, because, well, A, we don't know about them, and B, whatever they have, what would it do to humans? And then I have a couple of, maybe a comment after that.
Of course, yeah. Two great questions. I love them. First question, could some of these cryptids be like missing links? The ideas of missing links, especially with human evolution, is kind of more of a legend, more of a folklore than really reality nowadays. Like with the idea of like missing links, well, we only know 10% of our lineage in the first place. So there's a lot of like what we call like steps of evolution. And some of these cryptids do kind of reflect that. For instance, in Africa, there's a creature called the Agagwi. The Agagwi is described as a small, like Bigfoot, 4 to 5 feet tall, covered in hair, uses tools but doesn't use fire. And if we look at our own history, Australopithecus, Paranthropus, these were human ancestors that were described almost in the same way. So some of these creatures that are like very human-like could be not exactly missing links as we think of them in like social culture, but could be like our own ancestors. For instance, like Neanderthals. Some people believe Neanderthals still exist. In Russia, they have the Almasty or the Almas. Those are described as like almost like Neanderthals. And second, could there be breeding between these creatures and humans? Well, technically, there has been. 6% of our DNA is Neanderthal DNA. Another 2% of it is Denisovan. That's another human ancestor. So if like some of these creatures were like Neanderthals or Denisovans or even Homo floresiensis, the hobbits, yes, there has been interaction between all species and those in the past, and it reflects in our DNA. Does it affect us today? It could be because, for instance, there's stories of humans interacting with Bigfoot, like the Native American stories of Bigfoot kidnapping women and having children with them. That shows that possibly there is some type of human DNA within Sasquatch DNA. When there is Sasquatch DNA found, a lot of times it does come back as human. And people say, well, all this is just like cross-contamination. And my belief said it usually comes from what we call the mitochondrial DNA. Mitochondrial DNA comes from the woman, comes from the mother. So, what I believe is that there is possibility that humans have interbred with at least something like Sasquatch or Sasquatch-like species in our past.
The other question I had was, do you think that we see these cryptids in a way like the descriptions that they give. Do you think we're seeing them because this is what we see them at, or we've been told that they look like by, people or
That's kind of what we were talking about.
Stories and things?
Well, it's kind of what we were talking about earlier. It's about perspective. Your perspective could shape what you see.
Right. And if they don't look like that, what could they possibly really look like if they did not look like any of our perspectives that we see?
Yeah. Well, with that, it does go a lot with culture. Like, how is, especially old culture, like, how are these creatures reflected there? Like, if, for instance, if there's a cryptid that there wasn't any type of old culture about it or no physical description, it's most likely like how we perceive it, like what Jason said. It's all about the perception of it and what we expect to see. What we expect to see is different from what we truly see. Like, our brains don't work like cameras. Pseudo memories of things, pseudo perception. So, if you, let's for instance, think Bigfoot's an 8 foot tall creature that's covered in hair, you expect to see that in the woods. You expect to see Bigfoot like that. I wouldn't see an 8 foot tall, hairless white creature and say that's Bigfoot. That's also like with nomenclature too, like naming. Like what we were talking about earlier with like skinwalkers and wendigos. Some people like to call a certain type of creature a skinwalker or wendigo, when it's truly not. Now, that's not what at least the native traditions, the indigenous traditions, are talking about in the first place.
And the other is a comment that I have. I had told Jason last year on my property, they've been doing a lot of destruction and tearing down trees and destroying everything. And for a while in the summer, I had heard a lot of banging on trees. We have a couple of dumpsters, and they were banging, and it wasn't a bear, it wasn't a raccoon. I tried to debunk everything, and it was like, maybe it's my perception. Again, I could be wrong, but it was like someone would take the top of a dumpster and then raise it and then just let it go. And then they would be like knocking on the side of it. And it was very loud. It was, I won't say it's horrible, but it was very loud, and, and it continued for about 2 weeks. Well, I couldn't figure it out, and I tried to record it on my phone, the sounds that I heard, because I also heard, like, again, my perception, on the shows for Bigfoot, they have whooping or something, like whoops or something like that. And I kind of heard, like, vocalization from a couple of them. And I said, that's not normal. That's not a dog or anything I could think of, Well, like I said, I think the second week it started to get closer to my place. And I was starting to get a little nervous because this thing was more vocal, and I don't know if it was violent, but I certainly wouldn't want to mess with it. And I couldn't record it. Every time I tried to record it, it wouldn't come out. I could get other animals, the night animals, coyotes and things like that, but it would never record. But anyway, the last couple of days that this thing came around, all I could envision was this, quote, Bigfoot. This big hairy thing, like you said, 6-8 feet tall, And I said, okay, I'll keep my distance. And I kind of said, okay, I acknowledge you, if you are Bigfoot or whatever you are, and I'm not going to harm you. I acknowledge that you're there. And I swear it came to my window, and I could, this awful smell, and the breath was so close, was right outside. And of course I wouldn't look. I'm terrified, and
You could hear it?
I could hear it. Yeah, I could hear it. And it did smell, and it had a smell to it. And I was just so petrified. I was like, well, where do I hide, And all I could think was, I'm not, please don't hurt me, that kind of thing. And I acknowledge you. Please do whatever you got to do, but, leave me alone kind of thing, But I always wondered if it was because of the destruction of, the trees and the soil and everything, if they were upset about that, if they had disturbed, if we humans had disturbed their environment, but it didn't, whatever it was, they did not come back this summer, and I don't know why, but basically that's my experience with it. And like I said, it might be my perception from the shows I've watched about Bigfoot, but I don't, that's the only thing that came to my mind. It could look differently. It could not look.
But you never looked. All you know was the sound and the smell. So you never got.
I was scared.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
I don't blame you. I
would look.
You would look.
Being a cryptozoologist, yeah, something I have to.
You would have to. But I don't blame poor Ziriana being alone in her house, not looking, and you smell. That smell thing too is interesting that people always report about the awful smell. Sometimes if you hear it smells like rotting eggs or decay. Sometimes like
just straight
or very earthy smell. Sometimes or I don't know.
Yeah.
It's interesting they have that kind of like strong order. Wouldn't it be helpful to be the hide and seek king if you're smelling everywhere? Like people can smell you, but it seems to be a factor.
Yeah.
Well, Ziriana, thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you very much for answering my question, Mr. Edwards, and you have a blessed night. Okay. Bye-bye.
If Bigfoot comes around, though,
Bye-bye.
Take a look. Just do me a favor, take a look.
I will.
Let us know.
I will. I will.
Have a good night.
I will. Bye.
Good night.
I can't blame her for not looking. I get it.
Yeah. No, like even being in the field sometimes it's hard because I was on a night investigation and we were driving one night out in Brown Springs and the zone of silence when it just automatically comes quiet. That happened to us and we had a really creepy feeling, terrible, felt like something bad was going to happen. And of course, the inner cryptozoologist means like, oh, I need to stop. I need to see what's going to happen. But also my little monkey brain's like, oh, survival instincts. Let's get out of here. Like there's a predator nearby, and I do not want to be here. But also at the same time, I'm like, but when I kick myself every day about it, I'm like, I should have stayed, see if something happens. But also, what if I stay to see what happens, and then I become the next missing 401 case?
You're David Politti's next podcast. Yeah. But that's what people wonder. I mean, he's dealt with that. That's another guy I'd love to interview. I mean, I remember listening to him on Art Bell back in the day and other shows, and very like you, facts kind of guy. Just talks about the cases, the missing people, the evidence, the witnesses, and never really speculated too hard. I think he's gotten, somebody I had a guest on recently that knows him says he's gotten more speculation allowed lately, I guess. Yeah. But otherwise, he's always been a pretty facts kind of guy. But that would be always the question: was it Bigfoot taking these people? And some of the evidence makes you wonder. Like, I mean, there's a famous one of like a kid going missing, and then somebody nearby that territory seeing somebody carrying something like a big Bigfoot carrying something over their shoulder.
The Dennis Martin case. Up out on the Smoky Mountains. Yeah.
Yes.
Or even recently, like the phenomenon that's going on a lot now, especially even here in Texas, people being killed by unknown predators. And then they do the DNA test and it comes back as like unknown canine or like unknown primate.
where was that? That wasn't Texas though. There was one. Where was that? Was it Pennsylvania? I can't remember. Elderly lady just mauled to death.
Yeah.
You know, and the DNA came back as some unknown canine.
Yeah. And then down here in Texas, close to the Dallas area, a young man was killed, and it looks like his throat was ripped out, and there's paw prints in the area, and they came back as unknown canine. But going for the throat's a very non-canine like thing, and a lot of people that I've talked to, they're like, it looks like this guy was picked up by something and killed by something, and I'm like, that what picks up people and kills them in the woods? That doesn't sound like a bear. That doesn't sound like a mountain lion. Technically, mountain lions aren't even supposed to live in that area. Neither do black bears.
Right.
So it makes you wonder what else
kind of
is
predator?
out there. Yeah.
What kind of predator did it? Because you know the old lady, I had that on a World Wide Web weird years ago. That lady that got mauled, you know, they blamed it on a wild pack of dogs and left it at that. And case closed. Case closed. She had dogs with her. She was walking her dogs, if I remember right, and they were untouched. You know, how did that happen? You know, and you know, why was this poor elderly lady mauled to death like that by wild dogs? Okay, where's the other people getting attacked by these wild dogs?
Yeah.
You know,
and it's funny too. Like, and a lot of people suspect like it's a dogman phenomena. And about a month ago, so now, I talked about this on a YouTube video, and like I talked about and discussed about it, and people were talking to me about like, oh, what if this weird death's a dogman? What if this weird death's a dogman? And I looked up the death, and I'm like, guys, they said it's an unknown death, but it's in the middle of a city. I don't think that's a dogman, because that's what happens a lot with the paranormal field. People start seeing mysteries everywhere, and they start assuming, oh, everything's a cryptid, everything's paranormal. And that's something also I try to avoid in this field as well. Is like, okay,
unless Dogman's a werewolf, and that's why somebody got killed in the city.
Yeah, because we do have that like transformation thing. Like a couple weeks ago when I was on Tex Wesson's podcast, we talked about like transformation. But me personally, I don't think the idea of people transforming into werewolves and stuff like that is likely, because not just physiologically but also psychologically. Think of the psyche break of that. Like, I think you would break psychologically.
What if? Okay, so this is where I get into my research lately, because I'm researching for a fictitious novel idea I've had for a long time. But what if changelings like this happen because it's a form of, if you went into the religious idea of demons and demon possession, and you see what happens to people that are, you know, they almost like feel like they transform. I mean, you go back to the European ideas of like Peter Strauss, or what was it?
Peter Stube.
Stube. Thank you. I got that wrong. Peter Stube. You know, he admitted to killing all these people. Who knows? He was tortured probably to get a confession, but he admitted killing people, eating babies and children, but that he made a pact with the devil to change. You also hear stories of people changing into reptilian people, David Icke, and that whole scenario. Yeah, but what if these are all just forms of something, another entity, that its gateway is the human body, and when it totally has a full indwelling, full takeover of a person, it transforms into what it truly is: a beast, dogman, werewolf, creature, reptilian.
I've made the like kind of comment like, what if these rakes and like the flesh gates are just people that have been possessed by demons and just never got exorcised?
Right. That's what I'm saying. What happens when somebody's fully possessed?
If that phenomenon exists, what happens to the people that don't get caught and don't get exorcised? Like, what happens to those people? Like, how many stories of that we don't know about? And
right. Remember you're too young to listen to Art Bell, but all those interviews are still floating around out there on YouTube.
Yeah, I've listened to Art Bell plenty of times.
Yeah.
I'm like,
okay, thank God. Love you.
Yes.
That's why I do this show. You know, Malachi Martin, remember him? The Father Malachi Martin. Did you listen to those interviews, The Exorcist? He said, there's fully possessed people walking around right now. Fully possessed by a demon. We had a guy on, or I didn't have a guy on, but we played a video of this guy made this video talking about indwelling and how you can take demons into you for power. Like, he was like promoting it. You know what I'm saying? What happens when somebody does that? You know, you hear the stories and then, you know, pacts with the devil. You know, could Could there be werewolves? Could there be people who, I know I'm really taking you down a rabbit hole here, I'm so sorry. But could there be really people that, because the reason I think about this is because I had this shadow person experience. This thing knew everything about me. It levitated me off my bed. It would rip me out of my body at night and show me things. This thing had power, man. What was its end game? It wanted me to hurt myself or do evil things, but did it want it to fully manifest through me? What would I have became if I wasn't saved by God? What are demons trying to do if they're trying to possess somebody? They're trying to manifest into our reality. The person is the gateway. You know what I'm saying? They're not physical till they're in that body.
Yeah. And it's like, that's one thing I bring up, because, for instance, with me, yes, I'm very flesh and blood and all that, but, I've had my own paranormal experiences in the past. I've had a shadow person sighting. I've also had a couple of ghost sightings in my past. So I'm not one of those people that just because it's not physical, it can't exist. Because there is another thing going on as well. There is paranormal. There is the supernatural. But what I do is I'm like, okay, it's there, and every so often I kind of go okay, how could it affect cryptozoology? I've run through the scenario. What would ever happen if a Bigfoot got possessed by a demon? I don't want that scenario.
Oh, that's a scary thought.
That's a scary thought. That's a whole movie that needs to be made.
That's your next prime B movie.
Yes.
The Demon Bigfoot. My kids will make me rent it. There you go. Go somebody make that movie because my kids will make me rent it. You'll make money off at least me and my kids because we've watched every bad Bigfoot movie, horror movie out there. I think that's been on Prime. I'm a bad father, I know, but they do love the monster stuff. I mean, my son loves dinosaurs. I mean, he has the same Jurassic Park poster I had in my room up in his room, the map guide to the park. He loves that. He got Jurassic Park Evolution. What does he do with that? He makes a big park of dinosaurs, and then he makes a big pit so the dinosaurs can fight each other. Monsters. Kids love that stuff. So,
it's
go ahead.
And that's a part of this cryptozoology. Hell, even with dinosaurs, there's the living dinosaurs out in the Congo.
Right. My son is...
and the Ngoni Monid. These supposedly living dinosaurs seen out in Africa and parts of Asia.
Oh, yeah, my son, when he was he's still into dinosaurs. He's 13 now, so he's into a lot of other stuff, But when he was young, man, he'd look up anything about, are there still dinosaurs really out there? Can we genetically grow them? Can we have dinosaurs? I want dinosaurs. That's how he was. We got to go to our last commercial break. Phone lines will be back open, guys, when we come back from the commercial break. Just hold on. If you want to call in, join this conversation. We had a couple great calls tonight from, Drake and Aziriana. You can call in and join this discussion, too. But wait till we come back from the short commercial break with our guest, Ryan Edwards, author Beyond Bigfoot, the Other Unrecognized Primates in North America, when we come back from the short commercial break.
Intercepted the transmission of unknown origin.
Transmission? Out here?
SOS.
Human.
Unknown.
Alien. Certificate X. Exclusive engagement at the Odeon Leicester Square. Now.
Any systematized transmission indicating a possible intelligent origin must be investigated. I will hear it.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and InterfaceDeath.net.
This is an APAC studio presentation.
Hi, I'm Barry, owner-operator of Barry's Barometer Barn. Lately, I bet you've been lying awake at night asking yourself, how many barometers do I really need? Well, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we think you need more than one. Otherwise, we're gonna go out of business. Remember, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we don't know the meaning of high-pressure sales. Come on, folks, buy another barometer. I'm trying to put my kids through college, I've got a family to support, and a secret mistress who isn't cheap.
Visit Barry's Barometer Barn, 000 Storm Drive. Come on, folks, buy a barometer. I'm Barry's older brother, Larry, and every time one of you people walk past the store without coming in, Barry beats me.
This has been a presentation from Tim Morgan's APAC Studio. For more almost professional amateur comic studio content, visit the APAC YouTube channel. Search APAC 2002. That's APAC 2002 on YouTube.
When Alex Gardner is asleep, he has an extraordinary gift. The government wants it, the scientists want it, but to keep it may cost him his life. It might be better if Alex didn't sleep at all, but he cannot resist entering the dreamscape. Can you? See Dreamscape in the West End and all over London now, Certificate 15. It takes an extraordinary adventurer to enter the dreamscape.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Heat 'em up. Do, re, Egon.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID OOJBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guest has been Ryan Edwards, author of Beyond Bigfoot, the other unrecognized primates of North America. Been talking about devil monkeys, gugwe, North American apes, and yeah, I drug Ryan into some other conversations about dogmen, rakes, skinwalkers, and all this other stuff. But he's a very much cryptozoologist into the science of this and the evidence, and we can speculate and theorize about, from witness testimonies, what these things are physiologically, real creatures that are out there in our woods, and other things too. If you had an experience, we got a little bit of time left. You can call the show, join the conversation. Phone lines are now open. Let me make sure they're open. Yes, they are now open. Call in, join the conversation. But let's go ahead and get back to our guest. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight, Ryan. Yeah, I've taken you down some rabbit holes tonight, but I can't help it. I can't help it. But yeah, it's just such a fascinating idea. Everything, I always say, people as a paranormal investigator of haunted houses, and that a lot of times where people report stuff in their home where the entity might be hanging out, where they have weird stuff, is always like the attic, the basement, the dark corners of the house. Well, the forests are the dark corners of our world. They're the places we don't go. That's where these bogarts, these things exist. Our nightmares sometimes. I mean, our primitive survival instincts were to stay in the sheltered around humans and don't go venturing out in the forest.
Yeah.
These are where these things lurk. This is where our imaginations can go wild with us. But there's something people have seen. I mean, there's no denying to me. I've never seen a Bigfoot. I've seen probably aliens. I've seen ghosts. I've never seen a Bigfoot, but I believe it's real because of the witnesses.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm one of those people in the field that I've never seen a cryptid before. I've never had an eyewitness account or anything like that. But just because of that doesn't mean I don't believe they're out there. Because the evidence shows the other way. Yeah.
I mean, nobody is going to keep. You go back to, talk about the Native Americans and their witness testimony.
Yeah.
I mean, you get into that.
That's one big thing with me is like the likelihood of a cryptid. Like, for instance, there's a litany of what I like to call these modern paracryptids. Goat man, dog man, flying humanoids, people cowboy to an extent. But there's these, what I like to call just regular cryptids. And one big thing I look at these regular cryptids is the oral traditions. Bigfoot's been in almost every Native American tribe for the past several thousand years. There's been other cryptids referenced, like the Shakawawakeen, even a devil monkey. They reference, a lot of Native American tribes reference these monkeys in the woods. The tailed ones up in Alaska. The down here in the Southwest, they reference them. So for me, if a native tribe, old traditions go back thousands of years, reference these cryptids, it makes it more likely that they exist. Because think of how a lot of these modern cryptids, the rake. Even people like to call the Slender Man a cryptid. I don't think it is. That's a creepypasta fake creature.
Internet meme.
They muddy the waters of cryptozoology. They make it seem more like, okay, these are real life monsters living in the woods. Of course, to get a couple book sales, to get your shows watched, you have to talk about like, oh yeah, I'm a monster hunter. But for me, my ultimate goal with cryptozoology is showing that there's truly science to this field. Ology is in the name. This is truly a science. It's not just a bunch of, people like to call a bunch of rednecks with shotguns out there looking for Bigfoot. There are academics in the field. There are people that are going after the research that want the truth to be proven and prove it with facts and show that there is evidence for this, not just a bunch of people going out there hunting monsters. Like, yes, I'll every so often call myself a monster hunter, but I'm like, no, I'm not really. I'm a scientist to an extent. I'm not really academically trained, looking for the answers. That's what my job is to do. Not some
Our earliest archaeologists and anthropologists were not academically trained.
Yeah.
They were guys who had money and could travel, and they had an interest and research these things. That's what it came down to. Is like, I have money and time, and I'm interested. I'm going to go because otherwise the universities weren't paying for it.
And I'm an educator, so I neither have money nor time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I write the books, and I don't go on expeditions as much as I can do because just full-time schedule and stuff like that.
More than me, I never got to go. I would love to get to go just once out to an area where there's been Bigfoot reported and go look. I am not a wildlife guy. I just took my kids, on a semi kind of camping trip recently. I used to go camping like in Red River Gorge, Kentucky a lot. I used to do that. Now I don't get to go camping, go out. I'd love to get to go out and just get a shot, just a little bit of a shot to see a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
You know, but like you're doing it more than me, and you still haven't. You know, but do you think you might? Do you think your possibilities? You know, you're putting yourself out there. You said, you know, people talk about these things and they have the experience. You think you're going to have that experience?
Yeah. With me, I think it's a possibility, but there's also something I've discovered. It's like if you're out there looking for interaction, you're out there looking for it, it doesn't happen. It happens when you don't expect it. Like my good friend Tex Weston, when we go out and do our expeditions, he calls them camping trips. He says when activity happens, don't react, don't look around, don't start doing like wood knocks, don't let them know that you're reacting to it. Let them get closer, because that's how Jane Goodall worked. That's how Diane Fossey worked.
That's another good example.
Let the primates come to you, and they will accept how much you get to see. They will accept how close you can get. Like that's why I tell any new researchers with Bigfoot and stuff like that. They know you're there before you know that they're there. Primates just work like that. Known primates work like that. So they will let you know when you can see them. They will let you know when you can get close. Hunting them and looking for them like that is not going to work out. You pursuing them isn't going to work out. Yes, you can do stuff to bring them closer, but let them get closer and don't pursue them, because then they might see that as a more violent act. And primates usually, especially chimpanzees and gorillas, when you go out looking for them, they do their best to avoid you. They make the first move. You don't make the first move.
Jane Goodall's a great example. She's somebody that was open to the idea of Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Their possibility, you know, and this is somebody who went out in the field with, you know, gorillas, you know, saying like you know, she's open to the possibility because she realized how elusive they were.
Yeah, even Maria Mayer, Dr. Maria Mayer, she's worked with like Expedition Bigfoot. I was able to talk to her last year at the Texas Bigfoot Conference, and she's like, yeah, there's a likelihood of this existing because she did decades of work with primatology. And she's like, no, like there is science to this. There is something going on here, and it's the job of a scientist to discover what is going on. That's why, like, in recent years especially, cryptozoologists and paranormal researchers see kind of science as like the enemy almost. They don't listen to us. They think we're a bunch of crazy people. We ignore them. They ignore us. And I'm like, well, that's not how it should be.
No.
You should take a little bit of both from both sides. Take a little bit of the science. Science should listen to a little bit of the paranormal, because all the paranormal is, like magic and stuff like that, all that is science without us knowing. All the paranormal is stuff we haven't discovered yet. Yet
Well, we
is the
haven't
most
figured
important
out.
part of that sentence.
Yeah. Well, we haven't figured out, and science is it isn't science if you think you've answered all the questions.
Yes. Like
you know, if you have all the answers, you're not doing science. You should be asking questions. That's the science. For continually reevaluating and, you know, analyzing the new data. You know, you can't just think, oh, this is the it. This is the end of all answers. 42, and you know, there's no more explanations. People, shh, quiet. Nothing to see here.
And once you say you have all the answers, that's when dogma kicks in. Once the science becomes dogma and dogmatic, that's when you have to avoid it. Like with cryptozoology, for instance. Like with me, I think Bigfoot's flesh and blood, but I'm not stuck in that perception, because if one day it's proven that it's not, cool. I was wrong. What can I do to help my research get closer to the actual answer? Like the people that think their answer is the only correct answer are the ones that I avoid in this field, because you have to keep an open mind to all perceptions. That's why, like with Bigfoot and other cryptids, I'm like, no, I think there could be other stuff going on. That's just not where my research is. Like for instance, a big thing now, like what we were talking about earlier, was the dogman phenomenon. A lot of Bigfooters don't even touch that thing with a 10-foot pole, because they say the second I talk about dogman, everyone thinks I'm crazy. Like, even I'll be honest with myself. Recently, I've been wanting to maybe do a dogman book, but I'm like, if I do a dogman book, I'm no longer a Bigfoot guy. You become a dogman guy. and everyone starts looking at you weird, even more weird than before.
We won't hear.
Like, yeah, no one here, but like a lot of people in the field. It's funny because, especially with Bigfoot researchers, a lot of them stay with the science and they go only with the science, which I believe in that too. But that doesn't mean throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
You have to look at everything.
I believe in people. People are going to put their, especially when people put their name out there on it. I saw this. This is what happened. They're gaining nothing from it. Maybe they get a little bit of attention, but a lot of these people don't want the attention. They have a dogman experience. They're telling you what they saw, what happened to them. Now, can we figure that out with science right now? No. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. Doesn't mean these people didn't witness what they witnessed.
Yeah.
There's something there. There's something people have seen and witnessed. Heather, I had called in like a couple weeks ago. She described looked like a werewolf with red eyes. I believe her. She has no reason. She gained nothing. Nobody, she gained nothing by calling and telling you that show. On my show about that. She just wanted, first person she thought if she wanted to tell was me because she's a fan of the show, but, she doesn't gain anything from that story. It's what she witnessed, and I believe her. And people are seeing these things just as much as for me, my life-changing thing, when I was 5 years old with my cousin, I saw a green floating head come flying through the room. And I always remembered it. My cousin, years later, thought it was just a nightmare until I reminded him I saw it with him. Yeah. But it changed my perspective at 5 years old. It's like, if there could be a green floating head flying around the room, then anything's possible. It's like these grown-ups don't know what they're talking about. The reality is much more than and I never let go of it.
Yeah.
My perception's always been open to there's anything could be possible.
Yes.
Who am I to know?
And that's what science should be about. That's what cryptozoology, ufology, paranormal research should be about, is asking those questions, because how can you get to the answer without asking the question in the first place?
Exactly. Now, on the physical side of the Bigfoot, being a physical creature that exists out there, do you believe that one day this will become zoological? Like you mentioned earlier, that right now it's cryptozoological, but if we ever provisionally approve this thing, now it's zoological. Now it's a part of the record of animal species. Do you think that day will come for Bigfoot?
I believe one day it will. And that also brings in another question. Let's just say tomorrow Bigfoot's discovered. Who researches it from there on? Do the primatologists and real scientists come in? Do the Bigfoot people still research it? Like, when these cryptids are discovered, who are the people that they go for research? Did they go to the proven researchers like the primatologists and zoologists, or do they go to the Bigfooters that have been actually in the field doing this for years? Because when, for instance, if Bigfoot's ever discovered, I think you have to look to the people that have been in the field doing this research for 10, 20, 30 years now, because I think they ought to be the ones with a lot of the answers. And when you have people like primatologists and zoologists, people who actually have been, technically, formally, learned in this field, and in those fields, that's where we're going to get the answers from. Because people like Dr. Meldrum and people like that, those are the people that really help out this field, because they're showing you, the science behind this. Dr. Grover Krantz, the man that really helped put in Bigfoot footprint research. He was Dr. Meldrum was one of his students pretty much. So what we need is people like that still in this field. I've talked to some people in this field that are like, well, the academics don't know anything. The academics should stay away from this. I'm like, no, we need the academics there as well. Technically, I'm not an academic, but I try to stay as close to that as I can, because I believe the discovery of these cryptids is going to be only via science, not via just a bunch of people out there okay, let's go look for this creature in the woods. We will use science to discover these creatures, and then the next step will be okay, what's the next step after discovery? Will we put in ways to protect them? Will we go into do we need a body? That's also another big debate within Bigfoot researchers.
Right.
Do we need a body or not?
I don't want a body if it means we have to kill one.
Yes.
I mean, how endangered these things might have to be. You got to think their populations aren't very big.
Most researchers speculate between 4 to 6,000 because there is a ratio that we've done with calculation before that probably for every 100 black bear, there's one Bigfoot. And if we've done that throughout the United States, it's probably between 4 to 6,000 Bigfoot all across North America. And for a good population, you usually need between 500 and 5,000 individuals. And with Bigfoot, that shows you that it's a very, very rare creature. Because think how many people, like, I can't give you the exact number, but how many Bigfoot reports are in, like, the BFRO database? I believe for every one reported sighting, there's probably at least 5 or 10 unreported sightings out there.
Oh, yeah.
People don't.
Oh, yeah.
That are within families, people that just never say anything.
Like, I ain't telling nobody I saw that. Nope.
Yeah.
You know, like, they're going to think I'm crazy.
You might tell your kids, and then your kids don't tell anyone, and then that's a story that's been lost to time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you know there's tons of that. I mean, that goes along with UFOs and all the other weirdness, is that tons of people see these things and they don't tell a soul because they don't want to be looked at like they're crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely tons of people that have kept quiet about their encounters. You know, so I do a show, an open lines. You call in, you tell me. You don't tell me who you are. Just get the data out there, get the experience out there, because that's why I love listening to Art Bell, open lines night. You know, people call in with all kinds of just incredible stories. They're now internet legends because of Art Bell. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, some of those stories were full of. You know, it was entertainment in a sense, but you know, he didn't judge. He let people get that experience out there, and that's what we got to do. We got to let people talk without the judgment on it. We got to compare notes. We got to get these experiences and know, you know, otherwise we're never going to figure it out.
We need the data to get the evidence. Like, that's why I love getting eyewitness reports, because I love plotting out eyewitness accounts, seeing where could there be patterns that we don't see. Could it be patterns like, oh, okay, this Bigfoot has been seen in the same area for the past 10 years. Okay, that makes it more likely that that creature exists, and now we know a territorial area we can go look for it for. Things like that. Like, that's really what I try to go for, especially, is the data. More data to the field helps us out even more. Even though, like what you said before, we need to kind of like read out what's real and what's not real. Like, what's the fake, phony data between, like, what's real?
Yeah, it's hard in the day of the internet because there's a lot of data and a lot of fake stuff, you know, especially when you get into video evidence of Bigfoot and stuff like that. You know, I mean, people, how many years later are we still arguing over the Pattinson Gimlin film? Or, you know, people are still debating over that film, you know, saying, like, we're in a land of illusion. You know, people don't know what's real or what's not. You know, I don't think video proof's ever going to prove Bigfoot. You know,
no.
You almost do have to have a physical body, unless you get somebody like a Jane Goodall that goes out and finds a way to get close to these things.
Yeah.
Like, and does like a full study and like gets the photo, and she's trusted academic. She got close to a Bigfoot tribe. If something like that could happen, maybe.
And then the second that happens, that's when the FBI pulls up.
Yeah.
It's like that, or like I've always said, the best scenario is if one of these things get hit by an 18-wheeler or something like that. Because then, yes, it's died, but it's not like you purposefully went out and killed it. Like, if we could find recent remains or something like that, that's the best scenario. Because if you go out and hunt one, that's a lot of ethical questions. I don't know if we're ready to answer yet.
And it's not great. It's not a great ambassadorial human race to Bigfoot race deal. You know, there's a good chances are these things stay away from us because if you look at Native American stories, there was battles or wars between Native Americans and these other creatures or other primates, and that just that ancient battle between these different tribes, where they'd say, there's stories of them taking their women and children, who knows, it could be propaganda, whatever the Native Americans tell these stories handed down, but whatever it is, there were some confrontations, and that we don't know. One of the things we get into, I know we're running out of time. I mean, how long do these things live? What's their lifespan? Because if they're related to us in some sense, if you look at the ancient past, you get in the ancient aliens thing, or the Bible, you have people living 900,000 years or longer, or sometimes in ancient times. If these things are genetic early version of us in a sense, they might live for a long time.
Yeah. Actually, there is one case study that we can use to give us a suggestion of how long Bigfoot lives.
Really?
Out in Ontario, there was a one particular Bigfoot that was seen called Old Yellow Top. This is back in the early 1900s. A place called the Permian Shell. This town, they saw this one particular Bigfoot for like 40, 50 years. They knew it because it had a like yellow, like bald spot on its head.
Yeah.
That they always saw the same creature. And the sightings lasted for about 40, 50 years. And of course, when they saw it, it was only probably pretty full grown. So we mostly speculate that the creatures probably exist maybe 50 to 60 years. And that's funny because the average lifespan for chimps and gorillas is about 40, 50 years. And the average lifespan for humans about 70 to 80 years. Bigfoot's right in the middle. Like what we believe Bigfoot is, it's right in the middle. Right between humans and non-human primates. And same thing with like their body proportions. If you like the Patterson Gimlin film, if you measure Patty's arms and legs, her what we call the intermembral index, the index between your arm and leg length, is right between humans and primates. Humans, it's 1-to-1. Our arms are as long as our legs because we're bipedal. We're walking on two legs. Gorillas, it's 1 to 0.5. Their arms are almost double the length of their legs because they're walking on all fours. Patty's, the Patterson Gimlin film's subject is 1 to 0.8, right between humans and gorillas. So it's a lot of these weird characteristics that, like, if let's just say the Roger Patterson and Bob Gilman faked that film, I don't know if they knew primate intermembral index and ape body proportions. Because if you look at a lot of like suits from then, they were human body proportions. That the figure in that film is a non-human body proportion.
And they didn't have Amazon back then.
Yeah,
they did Jack Link's costume. You know, like
even
whatever that is way too detailed.
Yeah, even if you look at the Jack Link's commercial, the YouTuber Thunker, he brings up the facial proportions because our mouths to our nose to our eyes is a certain ratio with all humans. With chimpanzees and gorillas, it's a different ratio. Their mouths are a lot lower than ours. And if we use that ratio, if we go to like Bigfoot, like prosthetic masks, like Bigfoot prosthetic masks, they're a human body proportion, human facial ratio.
The mask.
If you look at Bigfoot films, a lot of them is a non-human ratio. There's no way you can put someone in a mask that has a non-human body ratio, unless their mouth is like way down here or something. But that's not realistic.
Yeah. Look at Harry and the Hendersons. I mean, it's an incredible costume, but it's still that ratio.
Yeah, you can still tell it's a human behind that face.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these things that are like these like little anatomical or little morphological details, that's what really helps out. Like if you know the science behind it, that really helps out with proving a lot of these videos or eyewitnesses if they're fake or not. Like
to me, the best evidence of Bigfoot's still the Patton Gimlin film. I have not seen anything else that comes close.
Same as well. I think that's the best evidence for Bigfoot because you see a lot of the anatomy, a lot of the behavioral sets, and like especially the anatomy. Like for instance, one thing that people bring up that don't bring up a lot is the body hair. The hair is one solid length throughout the whole body. That's a very ape-like characteristic, not a very human-like characteristic. Our hair is longer on our head than everywhere on the body. You don't see that with Bigfoot. A lot of Bigfoot sightings. A lot of them reference a one solid hair length throughout the whole body. Maybe a little shorter around the torso, but we even see that with silverback gorillas. So that's something that, okay, most likely these are non-human primate because they have non-human primate morphologies. The hands are very ape-like. The feet are very human-like. The hands are very ape-like. another example of a race of a mixture of human and non-human characteristics.
Like you said, it's like almost the perfect mixture between us and gorillas, like that ratio. Like they're right in between us. I don't know. I have a feeling they could live longer than 60 years, though. I have this feeling that they could last a lot longer, and that could be a reason why they're able to have a smaller population too.
Yeah, and one thing I always say is like those big granddaddy Bigfoots that might live to 70 or 80 years, people will probably never see them once in their life. Because I always like to say the joke that the ones that are seen are probably like the idiot teenagers.
Right.
That play chicken with a car or like
they're curious.
Messing people.
Yeah, they get curious. It's their time to roam out and you know see what the other side of life, the other side of the grass is. Or like, oh, these humans suck. I'm going back.
Yeah.
There's talk of the baby juvenile Sasquatch sightings are always interesting too. Like, what is their family unit like? How do they? How big is their group?
A lot of primatologists that have looked into it, especially Jeff Meldrum, believe the Bigfoots live in a family group called a Noyau. Noyau's is like it's one male, one solid alpha male, and like multiple groups of females in the same area. And it's interesting because we think that because of the footprint finds. Usually we see like it's like female footprints beside each other. Every so often a lone male. This is the interesting part about this family grouping. This is a known family type of group in primates. Orangutans have it, and every nocturnal primate ever known lives in a Noyau. What is Bigfoot believed to be? A nocturnal great ape. It has the exact same lifestyle of a great ape and nocturnal primates. Another example of a biological principle being reflected in a not real species.
Yeah. Again, I mean, I wish they, I see the big. We got to go here in a minute, but I wish they'd give you a Bigfoot show and let you go out and try to find Bigfoot, because I think there's so many things we could do to find Bigfoot. They've done in the TV shows, like that's not going to find Bigfoot. Like all the whooping and howling, the knocking on trees, bringing infrared light. They probably can see that light. Like things they're doing, like they're way too loud. Remember the Survivor Man? I think it was Survivor
That's
Man.
loud, yes. Like,
remember he thought
was smart. Yeah.
But why? He's out alone.
Yeah.
By himself. That's the way somebody's going to find Bigfoot.
If you look at like finding Bigfoot, you look at behind the scenes. Yeah, you see the 4 people, but there's like 30 people behind him with cameras and light.
Right. That's not going to get Bigfoot out there. He's going to stay far away from. That's what I'm saying. I'd love to see somebody get out there, Jane Goodall, or Survivor Man. Somebody get out alone. That's dangerous, though. So dangerous.
Yeah.
But to do that and really look for him. Thank you, Summerside. Another $10. Wow. Thank you. Thank you for the $10 donation. Yes, donate on Super Chat. Helps pay the bills. Thank you. But I'd love to see that kind of Bigfoot show. Something really, but you're probably never going to get that. Thank you so much, Ryan, again, for being on the show. Everybody check out his book, Beyond Bigfoot, The Other Unrecognized Primates of North America. Thank you to Nellie Turner, Josh Turner's wife, for sending you my way. Thank you so much, because I need more. And if you got anybody, Ryan, send them my way. I'm looking for more people on this subject.
Got you covered.
All right, bud. And we got to get you back on the show. Next book you get coming out, you want to come on the show to talk about it, please reach out to me. We'll find a slot for you in here to talk about it. You got another book coming out too, don't you?
Possibly. I'm working on some stuff, but right now, due to my school schedule and everything, it's hard to work on anything right now.
I get, as a dad and a parent, I want to get back into writing myself, and I'm still not doing it yet. So I get that, man. I get it. Just wait till you have kids, Ryan. Just wait. It gets harder. Well, again, thank you so much for being on the show. That's it for the show, guys. Next Sunday, we will be back with returning guest Susan Plunkett. She's got a new book, Understanding Transcendent Experiences. We're going to talk about paranormal perspectives, again, kind of what we were talking about tonight. in a sense, but how our perspectives shape our paranormal experiences. Next Sunday, same bad time, same bad channel, 10 p.m. Central, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific time. Thank you to everybody who shares out the show. Keep telling people about Paranormal Soup, where the weird happens live every Sunday night. And thank you for the donations tonight from Summerside of Life, $10. You've done it. I think it's $20 tonight in total you shared. Thank you. That helps pay the bills, you guys. Thank you so much. And my Patreons out there, the 12 of you, thank you for your donations. $1 a week, $2 a week. It all helps the show continue. If you want to help out this show, again, Super Chat. There is, had somebody ask about PayPal. If you look me up under jbland00 at yahoo.com is my PayPal. If you want to donate there, that will help too. But Patreon, Jason Bland Paranormal Soup is another way. Anyway, sharing out the show and telling people about it is the biggest help. Thank you to all that do that. All right, guys, have a great night. See you next Sunday. And thank you, Josh, for the $20 donation. Josh Turner, Paranormal Roundtable. Go check it out.